All right, good evening. Welcome to episode 93 with Pours with Patriots. Tonight I'm honored to have my stepfather-in-law. It finally took you a little bit of time to get in here to episode 93, so welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Unfortunately, I know you all too well. I'm kidding. But I'll start off the introduction like we always do. So tonight I'm honored to sit down with U.S. Army veteran Mike Marcasciano, a Bronx native, Vietnam era veteran, and man whose story is deeply rooted in family service and lifelong dedication to others. Mike was born and raised in the Fordham section of the Bronx, growing up in a close-knit Italian family alongside his twin brother and sister. In 1966, he was drafted into the United States Army, serving alongside his twin brother and childhood friends as they all answered the call to serve. After completing basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and AIT at Fort Knox, Kentucky, Mike was assigned to Schofield Barracks in Hawaii with the 25th Infantry Division. There he was served in the garrison unit responsible for base operations and honoring fallen service members returning home, a duty that left a lasting impact. During his service, Mike earned a spot on the USPAC Army Baseball Team, but that moment came with a deep personal conflict when his twin brother received orders to deploy to Vietnam. That experience shaped his perspective on duty, family, and responsibility for years to come. After leaving the military, Mike built a career at the New York Telephone Company, where he worked for over 30 years before retiring in 2001. Today, Mike continues his mission of service through organizations like Honor Flight, Fin Chasers, Warriors Outdoors, and is vice president of the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 623, helping fellow veterans heal through connection, mentorship, and outdoor experiences. Tonight, we talk about family service, guilt, healing, and the power of giving back to others. Please join me in welcoming Mike Marcasciano to episode 93 of Pours with Patriots.
My honor. Thank you very much, Trey. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, I should write more stuff about you like that. Chat GPT made you sound really good. She does a great job at that. But yeah, we'll start off with another quote here like we always do. This one's from former President Richard Nixon. It says, no event in American history is more misunderstood than the Vietnam War. It was misrepresented then, and it is still misremembered now. Big word to read. So yeah, well, thanks for coming on board. And I don't think I'm going to need many notes. I've known you for a little while, so we'll get into it. We'll get into growing up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
So what's it like growing up in the Bronx?
Well, being a baby
being Italian.
Yeah, being a baby boomer, being raised in the Italian culture. I was born in 1947, like you said, alongside my fraternal twin brother, my brother Jack. It was a different time, a simpler time, an easier time. But I tell you, and I talk about this all the time, I wouldn't trade that for the world. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment, family of 5. My brother and I slept in a Castro convertible sofa. So we joke about our first beds. Our individual beds were our bunks in basic training. But we never knew we were poor. We just had a good life. And so no complaints there. We had a first cousin, my cousin Jack, who also went in with us, and 2 high school buddies. We all came back. So that was pretty cool. I did lose a couple of friends. But the Bronx 50s and 60s, through all the changes, music, the sexual revolution, drugs, it was crazy. The city life, if you've never lived in the city life, it's a culture. My dad never owned an automobile. He worked in the city and used mass transit. People find that hard to believe, but whenever we needed to get around as a family to go to a function, one of our uncles always had a vehicle that would pick us up to bring us to family functions. But like I said, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Did he have his license though, or just didn't have?
Oh yeah, no. He drove a truck as a younger man when he worked, and then he wound up working in the garment district. But where he worked in the garment district, that industry was within the community that we lived in, so it was easy for him to just walk there or take a bus. My father was a family of 4 boys, and all but one served during the World War II. And my mother had 3 brothers who also served in World War II, and 2 brother-in-laws, her sister's husbands, also served in World War II. So there's a long list of veterans within the family, uncle's father, and then all the cousins and brothers. We had 8 cousins, including myself. So we're proud to be veterans, and my son is kind of carrying that on now, which I'm grateful for, and I respect what he's doing as an older person. He's 52. He's doing the Coast Guard Auxiliary. It's just something he felt he needed to do, so I applaud him for that. But knowing you, Che, and what your service and your dad and his service, I have an extreme and profound respect for you guys.
I appreciate the same as well. So let's talk more about growing up. What was little Mike like growing up with a twin brother, big family? What?
Mike was kind of a troubled kid. I would go out on the limb on things that we weren't supposed to do, where my brother was very conservative, and I would just push that envelope. And I would have my share of getting in trouble. I struggled in school. I was diagnosed dyslexic, which really nobody knew what to do with in the 50s and 60s. And I struggled with education as opposed to my brother and sister. I wound up going to a trade school, and my sister and my brother went to the same high school. The trade school kind of gave me some kind of focus, but it also allowed me to play on that school's baseball team. I was a pretty good ball player, and I played from Little League right up until that point. But having strong parents in the Italian culture, they were pretty strict. You know, my dad kept the rein on us, but my mother ruled with the iron fist. My brother would always say, you're going to get in trouble, you're going to get in trouble. And then when something happened within the family, who got the blame? You would always hear say, my mom go, Michael, what'd you do? And you learn to live with that. So as we grew,
Well, was it you that was causing the problems, or no?
Most of the time, yeah, most of the time, yes. I one instance, my mom had a lamp. She loved this lamp, and my mom and dad were out, and me and my brother were roughhousing. He pushed me, and I hit the sofa. The sofa hit the end table. The lamp went flying. As soon as mom and dad came home, my brother and sister, Mom, Michael broke the lamp, because somebody was going to get in trouble. No, we pushed him. Michael broke the lamp. So that was that. So I learned to live with that. And as we got older, 15 years old, I got caught smoking on my way to high school. I didn't know my dad saw me, and we comes home for dinner, and nobody, with the culture, you sit down. There's a lot of cultures. You sit down to dinner with the family. You know, and unfortunately, that's dying now. Not in this family, which I have a lot of respect for. But I remember sitting down at the table, and my father said, how was school today? I said, fine. He said, you have something you want to tell me? I go, I'm going. He said, did you walk by Jimmy's candy store? My father used to stop in there for coffee on the way to work. And boom, light went on. He says, in the bedroom. I had a long talk. He was good about it at 15. You know, stuff like that, stupid stuff. But we would hang out in the neighborhood. In the city, our games were tag, ringolirio, stickball. Stickball was huge. Roof hopping. If nobody knows what roof hopping is, you go on the building, the top of the buildings, and you jump building to building. We were kids. What do we know? Nobody fell. Thank God. We pray for that. But my brother would always stand in the background. So whenever we played any kind of organized sport, or we were choosing up sides, whether it was for tag football or whether it was stickball or softball, I always made sure my brother got picked, whether it was on my team. So my role there was I was looking out for him, always looking out for him. And for a long time, it was drilled into me that was my responsibility. Mm-hmm. I never really understood it, but it was my responsibility as the firstborn son.
I think we talked about that today in your bio. You'd said that was like an Italian culture thing. I don't know if that's just an Italian culture thing. I think it's
I would agree to that.
An older, the older sibling is always supposed to look out for the younger ones. And I think it's one of those fallacies of being a child and being a parent. I mean, I know I passed on to my son too. I think it's not only like taking care of the other siblings, but also like holding them to a different standard in some way, because, I feel like, especially with my three boys, that like the first one was like, we're super strict and all these kind of rules, and he was supposed to be, setting the example. And then by the third one, like, I don't really care anymore. I think it's it's interesting you brought that, and we'll talk about more as we talk about your story, but and that's one of the things we, like people don't realize, I talk about in the community that we're, that Save Away, we talk about where the troubles start for us, and that's where it starts. If you're the older child, all these, these pressures are put on you that are completely unrealistic. I think like there's no way that you're supposed to be at 15 years old watching, taking care of you, another 15-year-old, let alone like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. But that's just that pressure that's put on you, because really ultimately you're going to fail at it.
It's a load.
Yeah. Because you're 15 years old, like you're whatever age, you're not really, even able to take care of yourself, let alone, have the responsibility of taking care of others.
Well, what's interesting about, and I put it in perspective and understand it now. And, it's not that my brother wasn't capable of taking care of himself.
Yeah.
My brother Jack is an awesome dude, a really good kid, but it's just what I understood, what was expected of me. Okay, or not forced on me, just the way I was raised. And my brother and I have a great relationship even till today. But sharing that basic training experience with him and giving us some kind of independence made me really see who he was, and he was capable of getting along. But my issue was, is he, only because of what I was told or taught.
Yeah, because I feel like my sister's 8 years younger, so I feel more like she's a parent. So I'm a parent of hers, rather than a brother. I mean, as we've gotten older, it's easier, but still, it's not like we were just talking about something that has to do with her and before. And I find myself, I have to just stop thinking it is like a third extension of my parents. And think of it as like as a sibling. And that's one of the things that unfortunately happens. I mean, it's one of the things that we always talk about with developmental trauma. People are like, I don't know if that's trauma, but yeah, when you're 10 years old or 8 years old and you're expected to take care of a 1-year-old, it doesn't really work out well. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that I think not only an Italian family puts on it, but I think the American society is like that. And I think it's getting worse. I mean, you see it all the time where like, that firstborn, there's this, you got to take care of everything. You got to be, you got to set the example. You can't do this, you can't do that. And it's a lot of pressure to put on, because ultimately you're going to fail. I mean, everybody fails. And then that's when the shame train shows up, and you start feeling that shame. But at least I did at an early age when I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with myself, honestly. So, growing up, baseball, that was the number one sport.
Yes. I played Legion ball. I played a little league throughout high school and stuff.
I don't think anybody really knows Legion baseball much anymore.
Well, I guess not.
It's dying out.
What would you call it though? Just
what's still out there? I just make it. Everything's travel now. Like, so the Legions.
Okay.
I think New York is bigger on it. I feel like all the places I've lived, the Legions were.
Yeah, most of the guys that we had two guys that made the pros that I grew up with. Philly Trombino, we had Danny Moscato, and another gentleman, Freddie Bertini. These guys were all signed Major League ball. They all played Legion ball for what it's worth. Through high school, it kept me out of troubled sports.
Yeah, but I think Legion would be travel baseball.
Okay,
that's what I would equate to, because I feel like the Legion was like the next level above Little League.
Yeah, it was
like
above Sandlot.
Yeah, if you were better than you were. I mean, it was a different time, but you get to play in the American Legion if you were.
You got a good sponsorship.
Yeah, I know they have some teams around here, but it's just not like, even Little League is not. Yeah. I mean, actual real Little League is dying out.
Well, I remember, the experiences like with your boys, and being their step grandfather and watching them go through that whole process from when their birth and everything through sports. They're all excellent athletes. The level of baseball that they played, I thought was fantastic, because we didn't have that level when we were younger. You had your sandlot ball. We played a lot of street stick ball, which really developed your skills when you learn how to dodge cars and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the boys, I've always said that it's a great thing. They all wanted to play, so we made that happen. But the interesting thing about all that is the price. Yeah, the price of it is I always tell people that it's crazy when you add up the amount of money the travel sports costs, family, let alone a family of three. And then, but it's all worth it. Like, all my boys wanted to do it, as you know, so we weren't pressing it on them, but still you think back and you're like, holy crap. Like,
I tell you,
the amount of money that
one of the regrets that I have, and when it comes to the sports, is, and I didn't see the handwriting on the wall then. It's very popular now, girls in sports. Okay. My daughter wanted to play hockey. When my son got involved with the hockey program, I got involved with the hockey program. And before you knew it, the high school had a hockey team. We were Division IX in New York, and it started to expand. And I didn't really pay attention to her. And I owe her an apology for that. And I think she would have been a really good hockey player, or even in general, a good ball player. So Tracy, my hat's off to you.
Yep, she probably would have been better than Little Mike. Not kidding. Imagine that. That would have been even better. So sports a big deal. Like, what was you did mention that you went to a different school, the trade school. Was there? What was that like? I mean, was that normal for kids, or was it kind of like you were a little bit of a outsider on that? How was that compared to like going to it and not other kids were going?
It was more for struggling academically, and I remember my father saying, if you're not going to excel academically, just have an education, you're going to learn a skill. A blue collar skill. And again, a vocational school then, which is in BOCES now. It didn't register with me. I got held back in the 6th grade. My brother and I were in the same class. That was a very embarrassing moment for me, that he moved on and I had to repeat the 6th grade. And once I went through that process of middle school and then going to a trade school, I said, you know what? I better start applying myself here, because this is going to backfire on me. If I stay on the streets with some of the guys that were in the neighborhood, I'm going to get my ass in trouble. So little by little, I started to grasp that. And I got a job as a shoe salesman, believe it or not, before I went into the military. And the skill that I learned, I can paint and draw. So I was doing photography and art. This is before all this technology now. You don't need that. And I didn't pursue it, but the career that I did wind up having with the phone company was great. 30 plus years, like you said. So no regrets there. But sports, big part of my life. Kept me on the straight and narrow. And my dad, my mom used to come to my games when we played the other high schools and stuff. And it was something that my brother didn't excel at, though was a good ball player. And I remember him writing me a letter one time telling me how he had me up on a pedestal, and I felt like crap. I thought we were equal. And I never really looked at it that way. And had a long conversation with him, and I looked up to him for his ability to learn. He would apply himself to the books. He became a banker. He started his own career with, he started a business called ARM, A-R-M, which assess risk management, where he would show different banks from all over the world how to use specific software to track laundered money, especially after 9/11. I would have never been able to do that. He was smart enough to do that. My job took me phone company, climbing poles, or digging ditches, or being in the underground in the manhole of Manhattan. So, but I loved my job. I was out with people. I was out in the field. I wasn't behind the desk.
Yeah.
So that was good for me. And a lot of the guys that I work with that turned out to be in sanitation of New York, police department. One of my buddies, Johnny Oliveri, a really, really good dude. And we're in the same chapter together with the Vietnam Veterans of America. Johnny was a cool dude. He was a lieutenant during the Vietnam War. He was a scout. He's scout leader. He had a scout platoon, and good guy. Another friend of mine, Jimmy Clementi, James. James was, we call him Butch. I never called him James. Guy, he called. Yeah, he got the call. He went. He did his stuff in Vietnam. I have a lot of respect for these guys. And there were, a few times where, a lot of times, and I've had this discussion with your dad and a few other people, that I felt I wasn't worthy. I was less than a veteran because I wasn't boots on the ground. And that haunted me for a long time, because some of the services I did, as you mentioned earlier, about the fallen, okay? I was 19, I was 20 years old. There was no emotional attachment. My bottom came out in 2000 when my dad died. He was a World War II veteran, and we had the services for him. And I was on the receiving end of all of that. And that's when the bottom fell out. And I started to realize that the service that I did provide, they were sons, they were fathers, they were brothers. And I never looked at it that way, boy. And it really, really impacted me. So it started to, I had a dream just recently, and you can ask your mother-in-law. I was scared the shit out of her. I was laying in bed, I was asleep, and I thought there was a flag hovering over me. And I wound up throwing the blanket off of me, swinging, and she kind of jumped up. What's the matter? And I took a deep breath, and I told her what happened. And I saw this flag on all these caskets. So, but I'm dealing with it. So it's okay now, especially now that I talk about it, especially with you and the people who understand. But yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay, good. Well, I hope we could talk more about that. Let's roll back to around 1960s. That something was going on pretty big in the world, especially the United States, the Vietnam War. So, you're out of school now, working, like most men that age, that the draft is happening. Like, what's going on in your mind about the draft? Is there any thoughts about, hey, do I get ahead of the draft? Because, I've had a couple people on that enlisted before the draft. But what was the mindset of like? Never
ever thought of that, getting out of it. And as I mentioned earlier,
when I get out of the draft by enlisting, I mean,
yeah, before. You knew you were going to go anyway.
Yeah,
we were draft eligible. we were pre-lottery. The lottery started in 1969. My brother and I we were drafted in 66. So we were going to go. So do I want to give them 3 years? I don't know. I never thought of that. So when the notices came, I felt bad for my mother because the 2 sons are going, and then we have an older sister. I know that brothers do not wind up in a combat zone together by law, and never thought about who would or who wouldn't, or would we both, or that rotational or whatever. But when I seen guys that I knew that were a couple of years older than me, or a year or 2 older than me, that were already in, like my friend Lou Marciano, he was KIA, he was killed in action, and my friend Charlie Angrasani also killed in action. This is just before we went in, and my friend Danny Togneri. Danny boosted his draft up to go in with the guys, and he died on his 19th birthday. So that was in the back of our minds. These guys aren't coming home. What about us? But when we got the call, we went. I went down to 0 week into Fort Jackson, South Carolina, like you said, down to Fort Gordon, Georgia. Mom took it pretty hard. Dad was the one who, and I think my brother knows this too. And I would like to think my dad said same to my brother, keep an eye out for your brother. You know what I mean? But we never had that discussion. But I just think it was ingrained in me. My dad says, take care of him, take care of yourselves, come home, pretty much. I can't guarantee that. I was 19 years old. I didn't know what I was up against or what I was going to be up against. But the comfort in having my brother with me was pretty cool. And my first cousin, Jack, he's another Jack, was in the barracks right across the street from us, across the road. So the 3 of us had that experience together. And then the separation came after basic training. And that was the very first time I felt alone in respects to I'm separated from my twin brother, and it was. So
what was that really like? I mean, aside from everything else, I mean, you lived this, you slept with the guy like pretty, close your whole entire life.
Right up to 18 years old. Yeah.
I mean, it's a different time where you're not, you don't have all these like other social connections. So now you're off to Fort Knox while he's off to, where do you go, to Sill?
No, he went to, after Gordon, he went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay. And then, so, I mean, what's really going through your mind? I mean, at that point,
am I going to have to kill people? Stuff like that, think stuff about like that, or am I going to die? I don't know. What's going through my mind is whatever it is, I got to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't apply myself when I was younger. I better do it now because it's a matter of life and death. That's what it came down to. But again, at 19, I didn't put much on it as far as the emotional end of it until I started, hearing about other friends.
What was it like being away from Mike, though? I mean,
Jack.
I mean, what was it like being away from him?
It was. I use a saying. You ever hear this? Remember the movie "Show Me the Money"? There's a phrase: "You complete me."
Mm-hmm.
I always say that to my brother because he's a half of me. So I felt like I was missing an arm, for what it's worth. But we kept in touch. We try to write each other letters or via through mom and dad and stuff like that. And he wound up in communications. So he had the ability to reach out to me via radio, and they would come and bring me to the personnel office. I would talk with them over the radio. And the same thing when he wound up in Vietnam in March of 68, which amazed the hell out of me because we only had 7 months left. But I adapted. I made a couple of friends. I had actually 2 friends with me with the 25th, my friend Joey Cuomo and Bobby Ellinger, that I went to school with. All right. And so I had that to lean on. I had that somewhat of the neighborhood with me. So guys that I can relate to. But, you always think of your brother. It's a 24/7.
So you head from beautiful, the continental United States to Hawaii. What's that like going from the Bronx, New York to
Schofield Barracks?
Schofield Barracks or Honolulu, Hawaii area. What's that like?
So I'll give you the backstory. When we got out of Fort Gordon, Georgia, and we went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, there was a large influx of troops coming in that they could not accommodate everybody. So they were reassigning APOs, addresses. So they took a bunch of us down into personnel, and they said, list of names. My name was called. This is going to be your new APO address, your reporting point. The bulletin board's over there. Look up the APO address. I look it up, and it says Schofield Barracks, Honolulu, Hawaii. And I'm going to Hawaii? You know, so immediately I called my parents up, and I said, you know, I'm going to Hawaii. My mother was like, yeah, you know, like that. Again, not knowing what I was in store for. Some of the guys wound up going to Alaska, Anchorage. You know, so and these guys are motherfucking, yo, fuck you, you're going to Hawaii. Why the fuck am I going to Alaska? I didn't deal the cards.
Right.
I'm going where they tell me to go. So, you know, that was pretty, well, when I got to Hawaii, big time culture shock, you know, but the drill sergeants were pretty cool. We had one guy, Sergeant Desjardins. He had this habit of, when he talked, he used to poke you. And it was so annoying. And I couldn't tell you how many times I wanted to punch him in the fucking mouth, you know, but I'm going to get my ass in trouble. Mm-hmm. So I learned right away to be disciplined, and I became a driver for one of the commanders. And then I got assigned to doing these honors with a bunch of troops, soldiers. And we had a specific team, and the teams rotated, whether it was you were 21 guard salute or you were at the casket at attention, standing, doing the dignified thing, or trenching of the flag or whatever. So we all rotated doing that, and we did it for a period of time. And you learn to do that. And I said earlier, there was no emotional attachment, and I have that now. I said earlier about not being worthy, and this is something I experienced personally. I have an issue with, and I've done some research on it, the phrase era veteran, Vietnam era veteran. So I did a little reading about the World War II veteran, the Korean veteran, and nothing in any of these readings referred to a World War II veteran as an era veteran or Korean. It was the Korean era, but not the era veteran. We got labeled that way by the government over the issue of benefits versus the guy who had boots on the ground, such as a guy like me who was support. Okay, I was always under the assumption that I'm a veteran, you know. But when you got treated that way by civilians and your own brother veterans, I had combat veterans that would look down at me when get the fuck out of here. You weren't Vietnam. You're not a fucking veteran. For years, Raj, and your dad, I want to talk to your dad about it. Yeah. He can verify that. I just didn't feel worthy. And the first good experience I had was here at one of your son's football games when they were given the welcome home pin and everybody was going down. And because I was so used to it, I didn't go down because I felt I didn't deserve it. And both Roger, yourself, your son, they all said to me, get your ass down there. Get your ass down there. You're a veteran. And that was kind of the first acknowledgement that I had being accepted. But for a long time, and I dare say this because I might offend a few people, I was ashamed to be a veteran because I wasn't the guy that was on the ground.
Yeah, I think I don't know where the term came from, but I think it's a. I would just tell you that anybody that's giving you shit about that still just who gives a shit what they think, or I use a more powerful word about it, but I think it is I understand what you're saying because there are I've done it before too. I mean, if I'm being honest about it, there's someone I never said that no one was a veteran, but there does come some things when you start talking about things that are happening. I used to be very critical of it, especially when it came to like PTS and stuff like that. I used to always be like, man, how the hell is this dude who did this or did that, complaining about PTS or having problems with it when we were doing this or whatever. But then if I kind of was taking an honest assessment myself, if I looked to the right, then all these other people were doing crazier things than I was doing. So I think, I think that fueled it a lot of times. I mean, I think that the military is that organization that does do that. I don't know if I've ever said that someone who wasn't a veteran, just because they didn't go to combat. I don't think that's what it was, but there's definitely, the stigma is like internally created. And I think also, it's also something we create ourselves too. I mean, that's something, an identity that you get on. Like, it doesn't matter. Like I can honestly say this to anybody at my age now, and what I've been through and what I know, right, is like, good for you that you didn't go. That's really hard for people to understand. Like, thank God you didn't go. Like, cool.
I do hear that from a lot of guys.
I'm very like guess what? I'm very happy for you. And I truly mean that. Like, I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because that's the reality of it. If anyone is saying, "Oh shit, you didn't go to war," you know, that's their own problem, not mine. But that's really the way I have it now. Is if somebody, you know, does go like, and you met Joe today, right?
Yeah,
he's one of my really good friends, and it's the same thing he used to struggle with too, is being a guy a Marine during, you know, the 21 years in two different, you know, conflicts here, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq. He didn't go. Dude, who cares? I'm glad he didn't go. Yeah. And that's an understanding that a lot of people aren't going to stay, like, because I'm glad that whoever doesn't go to war doesn't go to war. I hope nobody ever goes to war again, to be honest with you.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah. And so I think that thing is like, you know, I think you need to, you're starting to hear that, you know, hopefully more, and believe in yourself. None of that matters. It doesn't matter if you serve your country, you're vetted. Because again, you're talking about really realistically what, you know, 2% of the American population serves,
right? But
then we want to just shit on that 2%. We want to give each other a hard time and bust each other's chops all the time. And that's what we do. But I've never been like where, you know, if you didn't go there, I mean, maybe I'm lying to myself a little bit, but, you know, I think a lot of it is like where you were assigned, we gave people shit, like what you were doing, that was normal. But yeah, I can see in that kind of was the starting point for it, really, right? Because I can really see that if you look back in the history, like where I was old enough to see that people coming back, that's when we started to differentiate between, like, if you say someone served during World War II, no one is like really digging into where you went and what you did.
Correct.
And yeah, it doesn't matter as long as you're in the service, you know.
Yeah, and that's how I view it now. Like with the groups that I'm involved with now, it's a, you know, combat group, PTSD guys, support groups and stuff like that. And as you said earlier, it doesn't matter whether you were boots on the ground or not. You served. I do videos on Facebook called One Proud Veteran, and I talk about stuff like that. But my interest is to promote the spirit, to be a good warrior, to pass it along. Right. My first experience of being looked down on was in the early 70s, and everybody knows where Madison Square Garden is. Okay. So we went to a doo-wop concert, several friends and their girlfriends and wives, myself, my brother with his wife, my girlfriend at the time, I wasn't married yet. And the MC of the concert grabs the mic. He says, "I want to dedicate this concert to all the Vietnam veterans, so please stand up." So I stand up, and somebody I knew, but I didn't know well, okay, turns around to me. He was a Vietnam vet. He goes, "What the fuck are you standing for? You weren't fucking in Vietnam." And like an asshole, I sat down. And that impacted me hugely, okay? And over the years, I've had that discussion with that person and come to understand that bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I think it comes to like where it gets the honesty of like, I mean, I don't want to get into like the whole like stolen valor thing, but like I just like, for me, I have it like, you know, there's, you know, if you add the numbers, let's say it's 40 to be even, 40 years of war that I lived through, right? With Iran, I mean, Afghanistan, I just slipped out Iran, but Iraq. But if you didn't serve in the combat zone, I think it's different. Like I wouldn't expect someone to say, "Where are my like Afghani vets?" Like that's, you know, if you served in Afghanistan, that's different. Like I wouldn't stand up if they said, where all my Iraqi, you know, we're the Iraqi veterans. So I think there's a differentiation between it as long as you're being honest of what you're doing. But I mean, it's a weird thing. I mean, personally though, it doesn't really matter what people think. I mean, that's just another thing of, I mean, again, I think that's young people at the time when, I mean, I'm sure that guy was how many years out of Vietnam? There's a part of like, I used to feel that way too. Like I felt like if you never went to war or you never, you know, then what do you have to say about anything? And that's total bullshit. Honestly, that was just me, you know, being stupid, you know what I mean? So I think, you know, it's unfortunate that happened to you. I think there are a lot of people that say, hey, like, I mean, I wouldn't say I was like an Iraqi veteran. I'm a global war on terrorism veteran. I mean, but it's just, it's just a weird thing. And I think it's just like how you as long as you're honest about it. I mean, I have it that like the big thing about your generation of veteran is I want to talk about a little bit more before we keep getting to this is like, you guys are the last group of veterans that were drafted. So I have it that anybody, honestly, if anybody that was drafted out of their everyday life, what they were doing before and got drafted to go in the military, that's a pretty significant thing. I don't think a lot of people, I only know that feeling because I you know, with my father and that generation and knowing that and like understanding, but I think a lot of people today are just like, yeah, that's no big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. Like there's a lot of things that was looming over. If you were a fit in shape guy, no matter what you were doing, unless you're in college, like you were just waiting on your time to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to always be like with my dad, I used to think he was, you know, the fact that my dad, you know, enlisted before that, it blows my mind. But then when you really understand what happened, you're like, why leave it to the cards of what you're going to do? You know what I mean? Why not control your own destiny? But a lot of people didn't think that way. But still, like if you got drafted, you know, Vietnam, World War II, like that's crazy. So like, that's a different thing that none of these people understand. So like, as far as someone saying like, oh, you're not a veteran, like most people can go fuck themselves if I'm being honest about it. Right. But yeah, I just think that's an interesting thing. I mean, I know I know I've given you shit about it for years about it. And you know, if you took any of that to heart, you know, I apologize for that. It's just, you know, some of it was being, you know, just a dumbass that I am, the asshole part of me that I am. But then the other part of it is just, you know, it's just busting your chops about it, you know. But
but what your character, you're a good person, and I respect that.
Yeah, parts of me are a good person, but parts of me aren't. But that's a whole different subject. But no, but I think that's and that's what I'm saying is that generation. Like I want to go back to like just rewind a little bit, but
sure.
You know, going heading into Schofield Barracks, like what percentage, if you can remember, like what percentage of that unit was drafted or was like enlisted or guys that had actually enlisted?
I'm going to say, I think for the most part, if I were to say 75%, most of these guys were draft guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't, we never really talked about the RA guy, the guy who enlisted. Okay. You were a soldier. So
yeah, but you guys had to know who they were. Like, I mean,
well, you did. You knew the guys that were doing 3 years. Yeah. Okay. But we had one guy from Missouri. He was a real dick. You know what I mean? And it just, you know, you fucking guys got drafted. You didn't join. You know, big farm.
Yeah.
You know, like I give, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, we're in the same spot.
Yeah.
But, no, but I mean, I just always wonder because you have guys that, like, be honest with you. In the reality of things, you didn't want to be there.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. When you have half or 75% of your unit doesn't really want to be there, they're forced to be there. It's a different type of, you know.
It's a different environment, different mental state or state of mind.
And then you see the guys like you're talking about, the regular Army guys, the guys that enlisted, like, there's got to be something like, what the hell, like, you know.
I got
a little bit of, you know.
Yeah, you know, some of the guys that joined that were the enlisted guy, okay? Some of them were just as fucking confused and as miserable as we were. You know, why? You know, hey, you joined. Nobody told you to join. I knew I was going. You could have went to the fucking Navy. You could whatever. You joined. What are you bitching about? We had no choice. I knew I was going, so I'm not going to give them the 3 years. They're going to get the 2 out of me. If I survive them, great. So, you know, with that in mind, is that I took the approach, just like every soldier here, yourself, your dad, me. You look for that short timer period when you're going to be a short timer and you count the days down. So when you got down to 30 days or 25 days, it wasn't another year behind it.
All right.
I'm going home.
Yeah.
I made it.
So let's talk about, you know, you decide to try out or get picked up to play baseball. So pretty good, you know, deal.
Yeah.
Playing baseball in Hawaii doesn't sound too bad.
No, it was an awesome deal. It was, what happened was I got there in February 67. And eventually went, like you said, into the garrison unit and doing all these base operations and stuff. It was too late already into the year for me to try out for the baseball team. But I had it in mind, if I stay here, I'm going to try to make the baseball team next year. So the following year came, and January rolled around, and in the day room, they had posted tryouts for the USPAC Command Pacific Redlanders Army Baseball Team. So I called my dad back in New York, collect, send my gloves, send my spikes, which they did. They sent them to me. And in the process of that.
How long does that take in 1960s?
It took probably about 8 days. About 8 days.
I was like,
But it was a little. I remember it was a little over a week.
it'd be like 7 hours. No,
So meanwhile,
just wonder how quick.
a couple of the guys already, guys that I'm with now within the garrison unit are getting orders to go to Vietnam. Okay, they're going to go with I think it was the first of the 1st Battalion, 27th Infantry Division, infantry, Wolfhounds. Okay, so it was inevitable it was going to come around to all of us. My friend Joey went, my friend Bobby went, Richie went, and I said, okay, I'm next. So I tried out for the baseball team. My friend Jimmy Truselli, who also tried out for the baseball team, a guy from Staten Island, we both made the team. But in the process of making the team, the Colonel Zalkowski, his name was, we used to call him Colonel Z, he comes into the dugout after several days of trying out for the team. And the way they did it was when you were rotating out of the military, they had positions they had to fill. Simple enough. You're going to lose a ball player. So he says, gentlemen, if you do not hear your name called, please remain in the dugout. And the rest of you, please report back to your base command. So he starts reading the names off, and I don't hear my name. Jimmy doesn't hear his name. And then a couple other guys. So we're sitting there, and Jimmy and I look at each other. He walks into the dugout. He says, gentlemen, he says, congratulations, you're now part of the United States Army Redlander baseball team. So I raised my hand. I says, sir, I says, we got orders that are coming through for Vietnam. And he looked at all of us. He says, man, you're not going anywhere. You belong to me now. And I made the baseball team. 2 weeks to the day going into March, my brother got his orders to go to Vietnam. That day, back in my mind, I'm responsible for my brother. I failed my dad. He's going to Vietnam because of me, because I made the fucking baseball team. So I went to my commander and I said to him, who was the captain of the honor guard, and I said, how do I get orders revoked? I want to switch with my brother. He said, you have to go through the War Department. You got to go to personnel. I went down to personnel. We filled out a whole bunch of paperwork. He says, you're not. There's not enough time, because he was going to deploy by March 31st. Our birthday, our 21st birthday, was March 27th. So we do all the paperwork. Nothing. Comes back with errors, and he says, forget it. It's not going to happen. So now my brother lands at Fort DeRussy. Okay, my commander lets me go down. I meet him. It's our 21st birthday. Take him out for a drink. We're bullshitting. This is the funniest part about it. My brother and I still laugh about it. We're having a drink. I said, Jack, I'll tell you what. You stay here. We'll switch. I'll go to Nam. You stay in Hawaii. He goes, Mike, we don't look alike. We're fraternal. He's got blonde hair and I got black hair. So we laughed about that. But when he left, like I said, he was in communications. So he pretty much stayed in base camp, taking care of teletypes, radios. And I got to talk to him every week. And it kind of eased my pain. And then I didn't hear from him for a few weeks, coming into October. And he cycled out early. My parents never told me. So now I'm freaking out. Okay. I'm thinking these bodies coming back is going to be one of him. And I get my orders. I get out the 23rd of October. And I fly home. Still no word on my brother. He's at the airport waiting for me. I fucking almost passed out. I was excited, happy. And we looked at each other. We both came home. And we hugged, we embraced. And Jack, if you're listening, I love you, buddy. So, and my sister was pretty cool too. She was good about it. So
let's go back to that moment. You find out that he's going, like, you know, you blew through it real quick about saying that you know, there's got to be a lot of guilt going on, a lot of like, what is really, like, what's going on for you at that point?
My first thought was, as I thought about it over a period of time, but my first thought was, if he dies, it's my fault. And I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live with that. And it hurt a lot. And as a young man, you hold on to the fact that nothing's going to happen. You pray. You know, we were Catholics, Italian Catholics. So you pray. I would pray a lot to Jack. You know, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And you struggle with that. But my daily activities would bring me back to doing these services and then thinking about that again. And my parents would reassure me, you know, Jack's fine. We heard from him and stuff. And 2 o'clock in the morning, they would come and wake me up. We got a radio call from your brother. I'd go down to communications. I'd get on the radio, over Jack, over Mike, boom, boom. I'm good on base camp. He says, I don't go out out of the base. You know, he's reassuring me he's okay. So that was good. And I do have a lot of respect for him, though. He survived it, and I'm getting rid of that guilt that it was my fault. When my dad died, I was the last one. If you've been to, and I know you have, a veteran services, they don't do them at graveside now. My dad's at a veteran cemetery out in Long Island, New York, and they do it in a pavilion. And everybody, the family members, are all at the casket. They're doing the services, the prayers and stuff like that. They bless the casket. And being now the head of the family, quote, okay, everybody walks out of the pavilion, but myself, my son, and my daughter were out by the door. And I just leaned over the casket and cried like a fucking baby, because I knew then what these other families went through. And this wasn't a casualty of war. Mm-hmm. It was just a veteran who passed away. And my son came over to me, and Mike put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Dad, he goes, it's about time. You got to let it go. You got to let it go. And again, talking with you and your dad, and I was never one for wanting to go for any kind of help, because I felt I didn't deserve it. Give it to the guy who's missing a limb or whatever. But whether you were support or you were boots on the ground, you served. So I'm good with that now. Yeah.
So let's go back to Jack. I mean, that you had the conversation before he heads out. Was there any type of, other than you guys trying to, do the twin swap, which, I know you both, so that would be the dumbest thing. I could definitely see you coming up with that idea. But
true.
I mean,
well,
that idea is not going to work, but, yeah, but was there any real conversations with him? I mean, were he, try to reassure you, or was there what conversation did you guys have, knowing that one of you is going, one of you is not? I mean, because if I'm being honest with you, there's that survivor guilt thing that came in, and I'll read a quote later on about that, which is, and I still felt the same way when I got out, when I saw that people were still going over, my friends were still going, and I felt that same way of oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm no longer part of it. Was there ever a real conversation where you guys were able to talk about it, or he could kind of reassure you, or was it, just kind of an unspoken thing?
Well, we talk about it a lot more now, but I wouldn't say it was an unspoken thing. You're going back 60 years. Yeah. But, after a drink or two, you say stupid shit and silly shit. But one of the things I do remember was him reassuring me. His MOS, he felt safe with. Yeah. It wasn't where he was 11 Bravo or whatever. He was going out into the jungles, but you never know. Mm-hmm. You don't ever know if a rocket's coming in. Okay. So, Mike, I'll stay in touch with you. Jack, you better stay in touch with me, blah, 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 blah. The beauty of the whole thing was he came to Hawaii on R&R, and I gave him a week. He never forgot. Yeah. Trust me. So we were a lot more comfortable then, because I knew what he was up against. I knew what he was dealing with. He made me feel at ease. And that reassurance of that communications, that line of communications between the two of us was open. I felt good about it. If a week or two went by, I started to get a little nervous. Yeah. And then I would get the call from him or a letter from Mom and Dad, Jack is fine.
So what about him post Vietnam? I mean, was there any things that was ever did you sense any of the, yes, things you were talking about where, hey, he served in Vietnam, so there's a different type. I mean, I can see that. I mean, I'm not hating on your brother about that, or not trying to be and not being sympathetic to you. But was there any animosity towards you, or did you get anything from him of hey, I had it differently than you did?
Yeah, in the beginning, to be openly honest about it. Yeah, in the beginning, and I was the guy. When we were teenagers, kids growing up and stuff, whether it was sports, girls, or whatever, dancing. I was out there. I was having all the fun. But now he had this over me, for lack of a better term. And for a while, I don't think he looked at me as a true veteran, but I never really spoke to him at that point in time about that. Mm-hmm. Until I started to come to understand, hey, I'm not worthy, and I'm not worthy by my own brother or my friends. And that was my own perception. It wasn't his, and which was for me good to hear. And he's a good kid, Jack. He really is. And if I had to do it all over again, it couldn't have played out any better.
Right. And so, how long do you think you held on to that from that you felt
be honest with
to
you,
go. Yeah.
40 years, easy, 40 years. Yeah, absolutely. And my friend Butchie, when he came back from Vietnam, guy was through a lot of shit. And as you and your dad, I've seen pictures and stuff of the bullshit that went on. And he went through a lot of shit. He gets out. He's cycling out of the military. He came home without a scratch. Coming out of the barracks, falls down and breaks his leg. So here's a guy who did all this shit, never got hurt, comes home, gets hurt. My friend Charlie Montanaro joined the Coast Guard when he was 18 to avoid the draft. Came home on leave, got killed in a car crash. You never know when your ticket's punched. Right. So who knows? What could have been wasn't. And I'm thankful for that. I'm happy my brother is where he's at now. He's in a good space and a good time. And I applaud him for that. He got involved with the American Legion. He became a vice commander, and he does a lot of speeches. He talks to people, and he's a good kid.
So one more pivotal relationship in that. So what, your dad's a World War II veteran. He has both his sons ago. Was there any kind of conversation with your dad about it? All those things that kept you going? Did he treat you and Jack differently than coming back, or what was that like with another guy there? Yeah.
No. My dad was pretty fair. He was a good man. I always refer to him, and I know my brother does too, as my rock. Okay. So with him, there was no gray area. He was always honest with you, but he never treated me differently than he did my brother. And I remember my dad saying to one of his friends one time, we were walking on the avenue, and his name was Gerard. Gerard says, "Hey, these are your boys." He goes, "Yeah." He says, with them on my side, I can take on the world. So I am pretty sure he felt we were equal. Mm-hmm. He didn't treat us any differently, unless I got in trouble. That was the only time he treated us differently.
Well, I only ask because I think this is I'm trying to get to a point here in my own mind, but which is scary. Because it comes to a lot of these things you have about yourself, and these negative thoughts are really coming from yourself. Yeah. It's not really a lot. The same thing with me. A lot of my negative thoughts come from me. Nobody's ever really said those things to me, or they did a long time ago, and I just kind of keep replaying them in my head on loop. But I'm glad you've gotten past that, where you beat yourself up for it for a long time. I think I always tell people, and Joe's one of my best friends in the world. I don't look at him any different as whether he served in the United States or if he went to Fallujah. He's still a veteran. He still answered the call, and I think that's important that everybody's listening, because I think it still happens today. I think there's a lot. The only reason I'm bringing it up and kind of harping on is there's a lot of people that still feel that same way. Especially especially as the war changes now. It's just, people think oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. And I think, most veterans are thankful that people didn't have to do that somebody had to take the brunt of it. And somebody didn't. It's like you said, it wasn't in the cards. And I just think it's, if any veterans feeling that way, that guilt or shame, just, let it go. Cause I don't think really people think about it. They may say that to bust your chops or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't really think anybody says that. And it's one of the things I've talked about before on the podcast is, as a military, and I can't change the organization, but that's just what we do. We make fun of it about everything. We make fun of what branch you're in, what you did or you didn't do. But, I try to be better at that now, because you kind of forget what that impact it can have on somebody, what they're going through every day and what they're struggling with. That could be rough, you know what I mean? Yeah,
I did come to understand, and the fact I didn't deal the cards.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's just the way it played out. The roles could have been reversed between my brother and I. It is what it is. And having all these uncles and my dad, World War II veterans and stuff, being a baby boomer, rah, and everybody's a veteran. But they never talked about it. I know some of them were in the Pacific Theater, some of them were in the Atlantic Theater. But as kids growing up, we never heard war stories. Mm. The family went on and everything was good. So you live with it.
So you get back from Vietnam, get out of the military, or serving in Vietnam, the Vietnam area, you get back from Hawaii. That's the same type of thing here. So head back to New York.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the
Bronx.
Fresh out of the military, out of the Bronx. What is 21-year-old Mike thinking he's going to do in life?
I wanted to become a cop, police officer, New York City Police Department. I was still pursuing a professional baseball career. As a matter of fact, while I was in Hawaii, we played against several Japanese teams. We played against several universities. And I received a letter from the New York Mets. I believe either my son or my daughter has it, that they wanted me to come for a tryout when I got out of the service. And so in '69, I went to Shea Stadium to the open tryout, made the open tryouts. And then I went on a list. I was actually the oldest guy. We had 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. I was 22, going on 22. So I made the third base position because they had several players from each position, and then they'd wean you down and they put you in hit and run situations and stuff like that. So I thought I did pretty good. And my brother-in-law Tony drove me to Shea Stadium and put you on a list. He said, you will be hearing from us. Well, '69, they won the World Series for the first time. That went down the shitter. They cut just about everybody that was on that list. But I had my shot. No regrets. I had a lot of fun.
So you said you tried to pursue to become a New York police officer. Yeah.
I took the civil service test and a waiting list. I did pretty well on the civil service test, and there was a waiting list. So I was doing odd jobs. I got a job on Wall Street, Hirschfeld and Stern on Wall Street in the debit credit department. It was a punching tickets and stuff, whatever it was. That didn't last very long, and then went back to being a shoe salesman. And a cousin of mine, who his wife worked in the phone company, said they're going to start hiring at the phone company. My cousin Sal, who was also a Vietnam vet, and he said, "Why don't you go take the test?" So I went and took the test, and this was in end of '79, 71, right around there. Took the test, passed the test, but they didn't hire me right away. And I called, I went back, and they said, "Look, you're on the list." The guy says to me, "Hey, you're a veteran, right?" I said, "Yeah." I says, "I got out in '68. He goes, "This is bullshit." He goes, and he says, "We're going to escalate you." And they fucking hired me. As a matter of fact, they gave me a $10 raise for being a veteran than the normal pay. So here I am in 1971, starting out $108 a week. I was like, yay. And I wound up staying with the phone company.
Big bucks, baby.
Yeah. Hey, in '72, I brought a brand new Barracuda, $3,600 off the showroom floor. Think about that.
$3,600.
Yeah. So, and I had a great career with the phone company. No complaints there.
So New York Telephone is now Verizon, correct?
Yep. We went from New York to Bell Atlantic to NYNEX to Verizon.
I think I remember NYNEX is what I.
Yep.
But I kind of remember New York. When I feel like I knew New York Telephone. I mean, I
the divestiture was in '86.
What's that?
1986 is when they did the breakup.
Okay, so I would know that New York Telephone then, but it became I know more NYNEX.
Well, NYNEX was just before Verizon.
Yeah.
NYNEX was the last before Verizon. So you had Bell Atlantic.
Okay.
They had the 7 baby bells at the breakup.
Okay.
Okay.
So the New York Telephone, all the different names, logos.
Yeah, well, 2 years actually I spent in Sacramento, California, when the technology started to boom, fiber optics and stuff like that, fiber optic splicing. That technology was used on the East Coast. We were already doing it in New York. I worked on the World Trade Center, the original World Trade Center when it was first built. And they look for volunteers to go to the Midwest and West to train their technicians with Pacific Tel and Mountain Bell. So I volunteered for 2 years to Sacramento. My wife and 2 children came with me. And I had an option after 2 years to come back or stay. And then I realized, I moved a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old away from a large family to not knowing anybody in California. And our first Christmas was a hot Christmas, and I'm wearing shorts, okay, in Sacramento. So when the 2 years were up, we came back. I had the option to come back, so which I did. And I was fortunate that I didn't have to go back to the city. They sent me up to Westchester County, which you would know what I'm talking about. It's the suburbs. And I stayed with them ever since. And raised the family, raised 2 children. I had my issues within the family. I was divorced in 95. And shit happens. So
what was, you got to think about today's world and like what you're doing. Is that pretty much outdated now?
I listen, if you understand what splicing a wire is, spinning 2 pieces of copper together or twisting them, versus what they do now, fiber fusion, okay? When I did a copper wire, each copper wire you dipped in solder and then you put a wax sleeve over it. So each line was individual.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a manhole outside the World Trade Center in the underground with a cable this fat, 3,600 copper wires coming through it, 2 ends, and you got to match them up.
Yeah.
You know, so if you had a color-coded one, that was great. If not, you had to test each individual end to end. It was a process. Now, fiber fusion, diagnostic, it's done. You got a cable that's the size of my thumb that replaced that 3,600. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
I was just thinking of the phone, like just
the phone.
That's a normal phone of how.
Well, you remember the first cell phone, the travel
There was
case?
so many good ones. I mean, I wish I had kept them over the time when we started, like with the
flip
9X,
phones.
the 9X, the what was it, the talk and the like the first texting. Remember, it was like walkie-talkie. I remember that one. You could just like there's just so many things. I just remember when they came out, you'd be like, there's no way this is gonna stick it, like make it. You know, I mean, this is ridiculous. No one's gonna buy one of these. And then before you know, now it's like I don't even know anyone who like has a home phone. Like I have a work phone that if it rings, I don't like ever answer it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just finally, like last year, I had him say nobody answers that thing. So get like the other person that calls me on this, somebody trying to,
Well, you know,
somebody trying to sell me something. I'm like, how did they get this? Nobody knows this number. So,
well, you know what is interesting?
Who has a home phone? That was like, yeah, my dad does actually. He's over there. Let's see if your site, yeah, you two have home phones. It's like, what do you have? But you never answer them, so it doesn't matter. Like, what's the point of having it?
I'm the only one who answers the cell phone when you call.
Yeah, but what's the point of having the home phone? I mean,
because you know what, you have a good point.
We actually have the rotary phone at the house, which is kind of cool. Do you still have that?
Yeah, I had it wired to work. Yeah, it still worked in the house. I still have it. I didn't. It's not plugged in, but I have it.
Yeah, that's kind of neat when you have the.
Kids like, you know, I see kids today. I say, hey, you know what a rotary phone is? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but the technology. What I missed about, working in Manhattan was phenomenal. I mean, there were all different districts within the Manhattan, within the Manhattan Island. You have the Fashion District, you have the East Village, you have the West Village, you have the Garment District, you have the Delancey Street, which is a lot of Hasidic or Jewish district. You can go way up north to Spanish Harlem. So it was so diverse, and you met a lot of great people. I met a lot of Richie Havens. You know, everybody my age, or at least your dad, or you might know who Richie Havens is. He was one of the guys at Woodstock. We worked on his loft, and so you got to meet some interesting people. I met Alan Arkin. I became friends with him. He was an actor. I knew him for a period of time, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I couldn't be behind a desk.
Yeah, now there's like you're like two of the only like 100,000 customers that have a phone. I wonder how many people really have a phone. I knew you two would have a phone still.
But it's
I didn't even know you had a home phone, Dad.
But it's not a copper phone.
That's completely different. It's digital.
Different. Exactly.
Because that's just a time of like, oh man.
You know what
you see it on TV. Like I see it on TV, and then you forget because like it was like my favorite thing is like it was always you had to pay attention because someone, if you had other phones, someone was always trying to listen on your conversation. That used to be like the pro thing is like somebody called, especially anything to do with my dad's work. I'd be like, try to like lift it up as slow as you can to get on, and you'd be like, oh. And somebody like, are you on the phone? Are you like? It was like that. You had to perfect that, and then everybody was listening, and then remember the cords would start to get long. Like it was like originally, like there'd be a cord that can stretch like to here to the wall, but like you try to get as far away as you could.
25 feet.
Yeah, that'd be the biggest thing you'd be trying to get old, and someone's still like, yeah, it's just be a different.
And then it get all knotted up.
But you think at the time it was like what it. I wouldn't change it either.
No.
Like you just couldn't like there was no like calling, like if you were calling someone's house at like 10 o'clock, like after 9, like I remember doing that a lot. I would call someone's house after 9 or to call your friends and stuff. And then you were getting like,
you were
getting your ass, like you were getting in trouble for that. Like, what the hell are you doing calling after 9 o'clock? You know
what I do now when I don't like, especially
now people text you 1 a.m. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I mean, I'm sleeping. What do you think? What are you doing? You know,
with your streaming services, you get a call now, it comes up on your TV.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I don't recognize the number, I go over, I pick the house phone up, I go, Sheriff's Department, can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah. And there used to be like good prank phone calling. And now everything's gone away now.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a great tool, but I think it's gotten out of hand. But that's an interesting. I'm gonna look that up of how many people still have
landlines.
Yeah, because it's just, I mean, like how often? Like when do you use your landline? I'm looking at my dad, by the way. Sorry.
because all it is telemarketing people
Oh
calling.
my God! Then get rid of it.
It's there in case.
Then you won't feel bad about that $7 extra you're paying for Netflix now that he's all so upset about.
It's there for emergencies, electricity.
Sorry to talk about my dad here. Might as well bring him over here. That's the normal thing. That's what they don't tell you too. Is like as you get older, like I'm blessed that now, like today's an interesting day because today's the 16th anniversary of my mother passing away. So I'm
Yes.
fortunate. I'm very sad about that, but I'm so fortunate to be able to have my dad here and take care of him. But like when you go over there, it's like there's a pivotal time that like all of a sudden now I'm like taking care of my dad, and it's like how can you not figure out this? Like you didn't know how to use use Word. He can't figure out how to. He can figure it out, but he's afraid to sign up for Netflix because he thinks someone's gonna like steal his identity or whatever. So it's like you guys. It's like you've created like the most tension I have now is like dealing with
MLB.
the old people and being like, no, it's gonna be okay, and like it's just. So I'm blessed to have that. I mean, I laugh about it. It's like, oh my God,
I do too.
And all you got to really do is just hit the button and then trying to figure out the passwords, you guys, because you guys have 952 passwords that you have on your phone, which totally defeats the purpose of the whole thing of if just saying.
Well, it's like you said to me earlier. Take the template, get on the computer and blah blah. I said, I don't do that shit anymore. I did pretty good though.
I almost wanted to put a video camera of you watching you on the Word, and then like what people can't see is everything is in capital. There's no like I'll show it up there. It's all everything what he sent me is all capitalized. And I was just like, and I was gonna be like, do I put this in ChatGPT and fix it? I'm just like, no, this will just be a memory of you sitting there like typing and then like. I lost the program, and it's just like you just lost the window.
Shane, come here.
I'm
Shane,
like, oh my
come
God,
here.
like, oh my God, this generation.
The boomers, baby boomers, we're good. We're good.
It's a new time for you, baby boomers. It's like the world is. But you guys have caught on to what's interesting about this. This is a total change of subject. You don't know how to use Word. Like you're. My dad's afraid he's going to get identity theft every single day. But you've like adapted to the phone. And stuff like no other generation, I think. If you look at you guys, like I find you guys are more into the phone than some people my generation.
Well, for the purposes that we're using it versus what the younger generation is using.
Yeah, but you guys are on it all the time. Like you guys are like, I mean,
I have some guilt there, but I know some people that. You look at their index finger; it's flat.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's an interesting thing that technology, what you guys have picked up, some of what you haven't, but the cell phone has like locked you guys in, like it's locked everybody else in.
I'm pretty good on with that particular technology. I remember you mentioned about when cell phones first came about in 1974, being on the streets of Manhattan. This guy handing out flyers about this new product that would be coming out, which eventually became the suitcase phone. And all the guys that I work with, were like, this fucking thing ain't gonna work. We never gave it any thought. Right up to now, we got pagers, and then the pages went out. Then you got the flip phone where you type an A to get the B, and the B to get
the pager was the shit though. We have a pager, you were cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I just like the funniest thing is I bartend part-time but I was cashing out a guy. He's like, I think he's like 97. 96, he's a regular that comes in, and I'm cashing him out, and he like I have the handheld and I'm getting ready to get his credit card, and he like has his phone out, and I'm just like, no, I need your credit card. He's like, I'm tapping. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, you know about tap? He's like, yeah, I know about tap. And I'm just like, a 90-some-year-old tapping. I was like, that's pretty cool. But it threw me off because he was like, I'm like, no, I need your credit card. I don't need your phone. He's like, I'm tapping like the idiot. Like, but that it's interesting that even your generation, you're watching the older, they're like, and then the iPad too. Like the iPad is like your whole life is like
you're glued.
You can do your whole life on that.
I don't have an iPad.
Yeah, but it's just it's an interesting thing to do.
I know my son and my
you can't use Word. You can't type not in capital. He can't. He can't get logged on to MLB TV.
My son and my daughter will do the same to me. Like, oh, Dad, just order it on Amazon. Or Mitch will say to me, order it on Amazon, and I'm doing something. And my son goes, "Give me that phone. What are you doing?" And Tracy will do the same thing. And I said, but it works. They do it for me.
Yeah, anything TV though, I know that I got to go over there and hook them up. Like,
No, I'm pretty good that way.
It's a good thing. So you know, I guess we're in the time now where I got to know you. So you got divorced in 95. That's when I think we started crossing paths.
Yes, correct.
I would say. You know, what did you spend most of your time? You know, you retired in 2001, so that's excuse me, a long time. You know, it's almost 25 years now.
Yeah, well, in the
it is
beginning,
25 years. So, like, what were you spending your time after you retired?
I was very active with my union, the CWA 1103 out of Westchester County. And I was a chief steward. I got involved with all the activities, negotiations, grievances, and stuff like that. And they wanted me to be the business agent and run for executive board and stuff. But it required a lot of traveling, which I didn't want to do. But I did some advising via the contract. You know, I would read certain articles in the contract, and guys would call me up and ask me about a specific issue. I would tell them how to, what to look for, what paragraph to read. This is how you got to file the grievance and stuff like that. So I did that for a period of time. And then I got involved with, I always had a passion for archery, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to union real quick. Like, I've had some conversations off camera about it, but like, what's your feelings like 2026? Like, union good, union bad? Like, what's
it's a business?
Yeah.
It's
like, what's
business. I have a lot of, I don't know. I have a negative feeling about it. And what I mean by that is, and we talked prior to doing the podcast, not to get into politics. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. No, I mean, to me, it's like, I understood the need for it, and I get it. Like, I get like when they came about, but like when you hear about it now, I just always hear some stuff now. It's just like, it's crazy, especially with, people don't even realize, like, my son's working at Kroger and they were getting union dues taken out at like 16 years old. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? I mean, the kid's 16 years old. Like, we're just trying to like teach him. And then when something happened, they were like, it was like the biggest deal to get these guys to do anything. And I'm like, you've been taking money from a 16-year-old for like 2 years, and now you don't want to do your job. I feel like it's just one of those interesting things where, like, I'm the same way with you. I don't know where it's kind of, I would hope that in the world of business and things that are going on, that you don't really need them anymore.
Well, on the grand scheme of things, I'll bring it down a level. The guys that I had a great group of guys that I worked with. The garage I worked in, we had, I believe it was 82 guys in the different crafts that I was responsible for. So my responsibility was within those walls of that garage. Once you got to a national level and stuff like that, you usually marched lockstep.
Yeah.
But the good was that the benefits that came out of it. The bad was the politics that came out of it.
Yeah.
Once I seen it coming as a business, and some great union guys that I worked with that were executive guys, sometimes could have been a little more compassionate with the guys that they were representing. And I seen it more, some of it becoming more personal for them than it was about the guys, where I try to make it about the guys. Mm-hmm. So I've been out of that for 25 years, so I don't really give it any thought anymore.
Yeah. I just always wonder, because, I worked with some places with the union. And I was always like, ooh. To me, it was always that, like, the places I worked, the union, that, as a manager, it was like the union really was all these rules. Yes, they were benefiting you, but in the same way, they were hurting you. I always felt like it was always a good and a bad.
Somebody paid.
Yeah. It was more like not even paid. It was like, for example, like one place, like, if you had union contracts, like it had to be like, you had to work, like, say I had to work 4 years before I could promote you. Right.
Correct.
On the other hand, when I didn't have it, I didn't have to do that. If I thought you were good enough, I could promote you at 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like there was some stuff, like, it's good. There was always some good and bad about it. That was like, like it depended, like there was always, there was a give and take, like, a give and take to it. But, when I always looked at it, I was it always like, it always fell into the middle of like,
no, there was always a lot of good. When I say a lot of good, I look at on the lower scale of the union, whether it was equalization of the overtime list, everybody got a rotation to make the same amount of money. Okay. It wasn't just one guy always making the overtime. So you had a balance there. Same thing when it came to vacation time. Union was great about that. There was a seniority base. Mm-hmm. Benefits were equal, whether when you were a new hire and you got past that 5-year period, and it was a tenure, if you whatever you want to call it, you were right up there with the guy that was at the top of the pay raise. So the unions were very good that way to make sure everybody got a balance. The negative part about it.
Yeah, but at a certain point, though, it like I know the seniority thing, but at a certain point, the seniority thing outweighs it all. Like, so it ain't fair for the guy who's 20 years and the guy who's been at 1 year.
Yeah,
it ain't fair. I mean, but you'll just say because I worked there 20 years, and that's what I always say. Like, you could say it is, but it really kind of isn't. I've just seen. I mean, yes, I understand what's going on. I understand that the person at 20 years should have the priority of things, but like I'd seen where the dude just because he's had 20 years is going to screw over the guy who has 1 year. Like, you know what I mean? It just I just seemed like it was always like. It was just a weird thing, and I understand it depending on the company you work for and what what management was trying to take away from it. But I just always felt like it was just a strange relationship
the unions
to
are still
navigate.
very strong.
Yeah,
very strong. So with that being said, depending on what side of the coin you're on, from a political perspective, I won't get into that.
But it wasn't even political. I mean, like I look at Ben. I don't know if the story, but like Ben was working at Kroger, so when they leave to the school, they had to fill out the management had to fill out some paperwork saying they're like, I won't get it right, but like suspended or something. It's not suspended, but just their employment is like on hold because they're going to school. So when they come back, they have their same pay, and their same seniority in the union.
At the rate.
Right. So when he came back from one school semester, the management did not fill it out. So he was getting paid like $5 less. And they were trying to make him like, start over from where he was at. He wasn't a cashier or whatever. So the crazy thing was, we're like, did you talk to your union steward? And he's like, yeah, the guy hasn't returned my call. Like it took like Ben called him, and I finally had to call the guy, and he was like, well, your son's over 18. I said, well, dude, you're taking money from this kid. Like, if you don't answer, start getting this fixed, that's what you're there for, right? You've been taking money from the kid since he was,
and you're not
15 years old. Like, just do what you're supposed to do. Find out why I just felt like I've always run into that kind of stuff when it came to
what I dealt with from a union perspective is totally different today. Believe me, totally different today.
Yeah, I think, and like I said before, I think as companies move on and just how open it is and what benefits they have and what they don't have and all this kind of stuff. I think it's, the good companies are having to do these things without having the interference, or not interference, without the influence of things being unionized. I mean, I know the importance of it still, but
I've seen unions merge with other industries that weren't part of the communications industry, and it expanded their base to another industry because the unions are shrinking. So they had to, hey, let's see if we can represent these guys. And they would go lobby them, and they would have what's the word, conferences in reference to being a card holding union member and the right to be in a union and stuff like that. And I'm not against that. But, if you got somebody or several people that don't want to do it, you can't force them to do it.
Yeah, in today's world, I'm more of like, especially when it comes to blue collar, we talked about this before, like, and you mentioned is like, that's one thing that's like, we're failing miserably at. Like, you would think that that's where the union would be getting involved now a lot stronger.
Even more so.
And getting, and being like, hey, we need to like, let's kind of like work the pipeline and help, working with organizations like that. I think that's, I would love to see them using all the power and stuff they have to make those things happen, to start changing that thought process on what it's like. I mean, because like you have a point of like, you're really talking about it, like, the electrician unions, all these, the unions that like, and I'm not necessarily talking, and I think those are different unions. I just want to say that too, like electricians where like, they're bringing in, where these guys are coming in, they're filling jobs where they're building, the Amazon Center here, and then they move on. I think it's important that that's kind of a different mindset than if you're unionized at GM. I have it differently. I may not be, but I would just think that they would be a lot more focused. I don't hear them pushing, the blue collar skills. You know what I mean?
Well, you're correct. And blue, especially today.
Not even pushing it, but like all these fucking dues you're taking, why don't you start giving scholarships and get these kids through?
Well, the blue collar should be emphasized even more now as far as from the labor perspective.
No, I agree.
Technology is booming, but like you said, building a structure. Yeah, you can design it on the computer, but you still need the hands-on, the guys, and that's one of the things we did with the communications, with the phone company. We started out simply with a copper wire, and we finished up working with fiber optics and lasers.
Yeah.
So those skills are skills that need to continue. Do you have a robot come in and do this?
Well, I think everybody, like, it's interesting. I think there was like that 2-year period where everyone's like back to blue collar stuff, and now everybody's AI. It depends who you talk to. I still think that ultimately, like, I don't know. I mean, I hope I'm not around when it's all robots taking care of things, but maybe that is, maybe it isn't. But I just feel like the blue collar stuff right now, right now, a robot's not coming here and fixing my hot water heater when it goes out.
Right. I'm more concerned for my grandkids.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's, but I do think that the things are changing. And I think I've talked about this before. My generation of parents are probably responsible for it the most. Is like all of a sudden, like we were the first ones that was always like we had to go to college. That was like the way to like progress, right? It was like you have to go to college. That was like the successful thing. Like you were, I was the first person in my family to go to college. That was like a big deal. Like, and then all of a sudden it became the norm to go to college. And the reality is a lot of these kids college isn't for them. And then but my generation was like, if you were talking about a kid and say like, oh, my son goes to the Ohio State or my son's a plumber. Like the reality of it is that like most people are going to be like, nah, well, your one kid is doing well. The other one just didn't get it. Right. And that mindset, I think, has started to change a lot, right, because it has to, because otherwise you're sending these kids into, getting degrees that are, it's fucking nuts what some of these kids are getting degrees in, and what you're coming out with, like the amount of debt you're having or the amount of money that the parents have put in to get to that.
Well, I know, personally, your story, your 3 boys and stuff like that. And you went through that process with your 3 boys. All 3 boys did very well. They graduated. They went to different universities and stuff, but all on a successful path. And I contribute that to you and your wife.
It's more me though, Mike, but just in case you want to know. Okay.
Well, it's
definitely me. No,
they apply themselves, you know what I mean? So, but that little push and that little drive and that incentive comes from the home base. That nucleus of the family. A lot of that is missing.
But I feel like it's even gotten deeper. Like I almost have like, and it's interesting is like, I kind of am at that point of like, I wish I knew how to do more stuff myself. Like I find myself, thank God for YouTube, I can figure that out.
Yeah.
Or I can barter with somebody else to come help me. But like, what I mean is like, it's not a knock against my dad or your guys' generation, but that was the same thing for you guys too. Is like, you have to go to college and we don't want you to work with our hands. So there's a lot of stuff I feel like we didn't get. My generation was, I think, when it started, where it was like, I'm not really going to teach you how to do this stuff. It's just hold the light. Like, get out of the way, just do this, what I need to do. Like, I don't feel like I ever got taught how to work on a car. Like, I mean, oil, like changing the oil. Like, I don't remember having like this deep down, like when I talk to somebody who's like, oh, my dad taught me how, and I'm like,
my dad had a car.
No, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there was like I felt my start of that it was really that push of like, you don't need to do this hands-on stuff. It's more important that you like use your brain. And I get that. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but like I find myself now, I'm like, I don't know shit about electricity, right? Other than it, like if you fuck with it, it'll shock you. Like, but it's like those weird things. Like there's I think that's something missing. And
every guy, and let me go back to a statement you made about you got to go to college. That wasn't even a thought when we were kids and teenagers in the 50s and 60s. Nobody can afford to send somebody to college. But
30 years later in the 90s, when you're putting your kids through, that's what it was.
Well, of course, things have changed. But I remember, most of the guys that I grew up with, I can count on one hand that went to college. Okay, how successful were they? We all had a variety of jobs, but most of the guys were labor guys, blue collar guys, construction guys, and stuff like that. And a lot of that is missing today. Did I have the drive to go to college? No. And my dad sending me to a trade school was one of the better things that happened to me because it taught me how to use my hands.
I don't think I agree 100%. I just think now like it's getting better, but like you like, dude, when we went to BOCES, and people don't know that that aren't from New York. I don't think that's other than the New York term. Like if you were on the BOCES bus, you were getting a lot of shit.
Yeah.
In the late 80s and early 90s, like you were getting a lot of shit for that. Oh, you can't, like, dude. And here I was on the verge of it. There's no way that I was like some fucking genius of it, but I'm like middle of the road high school. We're making fun of the dudes that are going to become plumbers. That's what was happening in our generation. And then we become parents. And what do you think we're doing? We're not like, there's not many parents that are like, honey, like college isn't for you. You need to like, and I mean, we used to take, like, we make a joke about it. We used to take that test. It was like this test that would tell you what you should do. And it was like, none of mine said college. It was like, I can't remember what it said. It was like, one was military. Like one was like, make a joke, maybe like sanitation or police. It was like all like stuff like, oh shit. But I think that's, I'm glad to see that coming, but then the AI stuff starts and it's like, now it's getting to more of like, this stuff is going to be now we need to go to college to figure out how to replace humans. It's kind of a weird concept that's going on.
The wall, yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing, but I do often look back and be like, whenever I see guys that like, we'll say his name, I haven't said why, but my friend David McLean, like that dude can do, like, he's like MacGyver. Like he can, like he can do everything. And I'm like, I can't even do a quarter of what he can do. You know what I mean? But I think that was just that time when we grew up. I mean, that's what your intellectual, what you're doing intellectually is more important than what you do with your
physically,
hands.
right? Exactly.
And I think that's, I don't know where that's, I don't know where that stands right now, especially as a 53-year-old guy, right? Like I don't know what like mechanical skills I have anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I like with the guys that I associate with now, and the majority of the guys are veterans, and we talk about it. And they're also Iraqi and Afghan veterans within the group, and we all talk. And it's just amazing how you hear these guys talking about wanting to get their hands dirty versus the generation that is gamers.
Yeah,
that's all they know. Okay, so it boggles my mind that the kids today, and correct me if I'm wrong, that have too much time on their hands.
I don't know if it's too much time. I think we all have the same amount of time. It's just different. It's like, that's the other thing too, is like, I used to have, like, I just have a different philosophy. And like, I used to have a lot of I used to shit on my kids a lot about the video gaming and all that kind of stuff, but that's the way they communicate now. That's the way they connect.
That I understand, but the one-on-one is gone.
Yeah, but we've created that though. But it's not just their generation; it's everyone. Like, I mean, we're all guilty of it. Like, we're all guilty. We could be in the same room, and 5 people can be in the same room together, and it doesn't matter what generation you are. Most of the time, someone's on their phone dealing with this. I mean, this thing is like,
it's a disease.
It's a great invention, but it's also the downfall, I think, of all those things. I mean, we've gotten to the same point of where it is too. It's like, I don't necessarily look at my kids any different because I'm just as bad sometimes. If I'm not aware of it, I'm gonna be on the phone, doom scrolling. I mean,
is that what you call it, doom scrolling?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I figured out how much time I used to spend on Facebook, right? Before I went to Save a Warrior, about in all the bourbon groups I was involved on, is like all I would spend my whole night doing was like trying to get on and argue with people, and or if it was like somebody had posted something about something that I thought I was an expert with, like today I'm going to be an international
spy,
an international international studies expert, or tomorrow I'll be an economic expert, and then I'll be a political science major. Like, that's what everybody does on the phone. So I don't know if it's not just the kids nowadays. It's everybody. I mean, I would love to have that thing get wiped out. Like, to be honest with you, there's a part of me that does it. Like, I'm on it. I have to be on it for like things like this. But I have a timer on that. Like, I have a timer every day that tells me when I'm on it. Like, it's like,
too much
you've been on it. Like, you've been on this thing for 45 minutes. Yeah. You're done. And so, I can override it if I want to, but most of the time I'm just like, holy shit, I just spent, it's 9:30 in the morning and I was on there 45 minutes. Like, think about like when you get up in the morning, like, what's the first thing you do? Grab your cell phone.
No, I don't.
I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They grab their cell phone to take a dump.
At my age.
But you're
but
taking.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you're taking it into the bathroom with you. Like, I mean, like, it's all these things. And I don't know if I like to shit on my kid, like that generation, but we're doing the same thing. I mean, I made it. We talked about earlier. You guys might. I mean, I'm surprised he's not on the phone watching the Yankee game over there right now. They must be rained out or something right now. But yeah, I don't know if they have more time on their hands, but the whole thing of communicating, we're the same way though. I mean,
we all have that guilt.
We're all,
yeah.
Like, how often do you just text your friend and you don't call them?
True. I
mean,
most of the time, whenever, and you could ask Midge, your mother-in-law, that I say often, and don't text me, call me. Give me a call. I hate texting. Give me a call. At least have a conversation. Just not her, just in general. And sometimes I'd rather talk to somebody and go.
I think it's important. Yeah, I mean, it's in business too. Like now, Teams is everything. Like in my job, like everyone wants to communicate on Teams.
Did you ever have
like I can talk to somebody on Teams like within a second, but if I try to call them, I can't get a hold of them.
Right.
And it's crazy. I'm still that person too. That like I just want to talk. It's important. Like some of the things to talk about what's going through, especially when something isn't going well, or just to know what's going on with people. You know, what I mean, it's just a connection piece of.
And that's one of the things.
Important.
Getting back to what this podcast is all about: communicating with each other. Veterans for veterans and stuff like that. First responders helping each other. We have a line of communications that way with each other within the groups. Guys always looking out for guys. I got a call the other day. A couple of guys within the group that I'm in were concerned because they hadn't heard from me in 3 days. Where are you? What have you been up to? You okay? Which I find very rewarding because I find myself doing that with other veterans. So we kind of like have that camaraderie to take care of each other. So that is where the phone comes in handy for me a lot. Yeah,
I mean, to be able to connect is not a bad thing. I think. I mean, it's just I'm guilty of it. I could be guilty of it tomorrow if I'm not careful. I could be guilty of it tonight. It's just but the connection to veterans and other veterans is important too. And I mean, we talk about that a lot here. But I think the important thing is I think the connection is the communication needs to be. It needs to go past just skimming through and just getting into and like just skimming the surface with people and saying, hey, okay, everything's all right. Like you got to really get to know people. You know what I mean? Like so, that's the thing that I think my life is different now. Where the conversations I'm having, I'm not really interested in. I don't want to say that that's not the right, but there's parts of me that aren't interested in having like these superficial relationships anymore. It's more of like like you met Joe.
Yeah. My
dad knows Joe. I talk to Joe more than I talk to anybody in the world. Like I talk to him pretty much every morning. Like we talk to him for like, and I, like you asked, how often do I see him? I don't think I'm trying to think. I saw Joe 2 Sundays ago. I see him every Sunday when he's not out, going on cruises and stuff with his family and abandoning me. But yeah, I see him, once a week, but I talk to him every day. And it's usually, it could be an hour or whatever a day. So I talk to him. So those conversations are like super important to
have. A buddy of mine named, two guys that I really have a great relationship with now. One gentleman by the name of Gus Kinjemi. Gus has a TV show, a Pursuit channel called Live the Wildlife TV. Great guy. He's been all over the world. He's all about the vets. He's, we're going to be doing a turkey shoot with him for his show, and he wants 3 vets. He's going to supply the camera crews and all that. The call is for the turkey. The other guy's not a veteran, but a volunteer with the veteran groups. His name is Jay Corbett. Jay is a mentor. Jay is a fly fishing guru. And so he helps these guys find an outlet outside of what life is for them right now. And I find that very rewarding because Jay was my mentor. And Gus took me under his wing. I actually taught him how to shoot traditional archery, even though he's been all over the world hunting. He's never shot traditional archery. So he took to it very well. Great guy. So these guys I talk to every day, like you say, with Joe. Okay. And it's just not a conversation, just to call and say hi. We have conversations and healthy conversations. It's better than, like you said, just skimming over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to be able to, like, when I think about, I'm trying, like right now, I'm trying to look at the time here. I'm trying to figure out exactly what time it is here. So yeah, it's 8:00. So you change the date of the podcast, usually Thursday. So I'm usually on a call tonight with a group of men at 8:00.
Okay.
So there's a part of me that's like, I'm glad I'm doing this, but there's a part that I'm sad that I'm missing in them, right? And because they're on a journey that's important to me because I've been on that journey as well. But like I think the interesting thing about it's like if you add that in, then I'm on 2 calls on Tuesday, then I'm on a call on Saturday, then I'm on a meeting on Sunday. Like I'm just I'm involved in a lot of conversations or like with men that now I know is where it's important, right? Like it's not, these conversations like aren't what they used to be, which was, a lot of my conversations were, if I had to call Joe in the morning, I'm bitching about my wife, I'm bitching about my kids, I'm bitching about my job. And that's not what it is anymore. There may be some of that coming up, but it's just more of like internally what's going on for me. And I think those deep conversations, I'm blessed to have them because now it just keeps me calmer. You know what I mean? I can, if something's irritating me, like something irritates me right now, like I can just be quiet and I know I can call Joe in the morning. I can just text him at 6:10 and say, are you in the car or whatever? Let's chat and we can chat or whatever. Or I can just call somebody else on the phone. And I think those conversations are important as long as you're having those real conversations. And that's what I thrive for to have now is like, there's not that, I don't enjoy, talking shit or like, talking about the Yankees or like sports, but I just find myself as, like the other day, I didn't realize who won, the national championship for the NCAA.
Right.
And so one of the guys at work was like, it was Michigan. So like here in Ohio, that's a big fucking deal. So some guy comes up to me and I literally was like, dude, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, Michigan won last night. And I was like, who are they playing? And he's like, thinks I'm joking, but that's where my life's at now. Yeah. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not spending,
you're not wasting
3.5. I don't want to say wasting. It's just not what I choose to do anymore. It's not what I spend my time doing. And like, to be honest with you, is like, I don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a fuck about who won or whatever. I really don't. And the only reason I would give a fuck in the past is so I can talk about it while we're eating lunch or at the water cooler or whatever. And I just don't have those conversations very often.
I'm the same that I'm a diehard Yankee fan, born and raised in the Bronx. Okay. The first baseball game my dad ever took my brother and I was 1956 at the Polo Grounds when it was the New York Giants. Mm-hmm. But I could do without it. When I say I could do without it, I don't try not to watch the games now and see what the stats are and you said, exit velocity and all that shit. I wait till 2/3, 3/4 of the season is over, and then you see who's where. And if I want to follow it, I follow it. What's more important to me is talking with, like one of my passions now outside of archery and is playing in a band. When I was 70, I had a bucket list and I wanted to learn how to play an instrument, learned how to play the bass guitar. And now I play in a band. So it takes out a lot of my time, but it's well spent time. It's a healing time. It's rewarding that I'm doing all this. And every Wednesday I work with, we're developing we developed an archery program to an organization called Fin Chasers, which you know about. And every Wednesday now I give lessons at one of the local archery ranges for veterans. You go to the website, sign up, come to the range. It's all free. We supply you with the equipment and everything, with the end game of trying to develop a 3D archery team to go shoot at all the 3D archery programs. And for a lot of the people that are listening tonight, they know what I'm talking about. If you're a hunter, it's not about the hunting. It's not having that companionship, shooting alongside of your buddy. And hey, you can do this, you can do that. It's very rewarding. So I volunteer a lot of time to that. And there's other organizations that I'm involved with.
So why do you think it's important for veterans to stay connected in things like, archery, fishing?
I think just to let them know that they're not alone. There is life outside of beating yourself up like I did. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because as I mentioned Jay before, that helped me. There's another gentleman that really helped me. His name was Robert Gill, who's an Afghan Iraqi veteran, and Nico, we call him. And Nico was a big part of Project Healing Waters, which is the fly fishing program they have through the Fin Chasers. And these guys, when I say help me walk out of the shadows of feeling sorry for myself and not worthy, and took my mind off of that to where I'm at a point now where that wasn't important anymore. It's how you help others, which is important to move forward with their life. So that's what I'm getting out of it for me. And it's working. It helps.
Yeah, I think finding your tribe is, I think the big thing about the military is you're so, and not even military, first responders, you're so close to people in a way that it's hard for people to understand. And then all of a sudden everyone goes a different, inevitably you go a different way. And and then a lot of the times you're left with, the family that you weren't really around very much when you were doing all that, and then you just find yourself alone and not able to connect. I mean, I've found that same community with, the Save a Warrior community. That's huge to me to be able to find that and find out that, I'm not alone anymore. I think that's important. I think there's a lot of great organizations out there. I mean, there's Project Healing Water Hat up there. All those things are great. I think it's important for the veteran to find out what they like to do. You know what I mean? And there's so many organizations out there right now that are helping, and I think that's important to just find out what's going on.
Yeah,
it's Dungeons and Dragons, a little weird, but if there's just get at it. You know what I mean?
There's Heroes, Cowboys, and Companions.
Yeah,
another organization.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things to get. I shouldn't make fun of the D&D guys, but I still do, though. No, but I think it's just to find out what's and I tell people all the time is like if it's not out there, if there's not a Veterans Dungeons and Dragons group, just fucking start
That's
it.
Interesting.
No, I mean, I don't know if there is. I mean, like, I would never do that myself, but that's one thing I didn't understand. Maybe Pokemon or whatever, but no. But what I mean is, tell those organizations is like, just try it. Like, that's one of the things that, like, I think a lot of veterans need to do is like just take the step and try to start these organizations. If there's something you do, and it doesn't have to be veterans either, but like, I think that's a big thing. Is I'm that's where I'm focused at. So it's a small percentage, but I think it's a percentage that's, kind of not understood, or like a little, like we're seen to be different when we're not. But so it is good to get into things. It doesn't have to be just a veteran organization. I mean, there's a lot of things that, I'm blessed to have conversations with people that are in the warrior class. I think it is, but I've also at the same time, I've learned from people that aren't, you know what I mean? I'm in that part of my life. I think it's just finding, get out there and doing stuff that
just do it. Yeah.
That's doing that. But like, if there's an organization, just try it. I mean,
like my shirt, right? Honor Flights. Your dad's been on it, and I hope that you get online and register. But in 2023, my brother and I both went on the honor flight out of the Hudson Valley, New York area, and we had our daughters as our guardians. It was mind blowing. I got to be honest with you, it was mind blowing. It was so mind blowing for me to see all of these veterans, whether you were support or you were combat vet, whatever, mesh as one and welcome each other home and stuff. And the camaraderie was phenomenal. That it motivated me to want to get involved even more, which I am now, which is great. So, and I'll be going on a flight this weekend coming up on April 11th on Mission 38. And I'm on the flight team now. I attend all of their meetings. I go to their greet and meet. I meet veterans. I'm a diplomat for the program. Any veterans that are having issues that want to talk to another veteran, they give them my phone number, or I meet with them. I sit with them at one of the meet and greets and go over their anxieties, talk about what they're feeling, and it's rewarding. It's rewarding, and I've helped a few guys, so it's cool.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. It's like I've been to DC many times. So I mean, I know it's been a while. I know there's some new monuments, but I don't know what would take me to go on that. I think I've already had my. It's a different it's a different time. Like, so I think I've had my welcome home. I've had all that kind of stuff. I know I eventually will probably do that, but it's not in my a forefront of.
Okay, eventually will be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just have it that like.
We have guys within the group that are your age that are dying to go. They've registered. They will be going. We have. I'm
not saying anything anyone's wrong with, but I mean, I've been lucky enough to, in my past job to go to DC. I mean, it's not that far from me either too. If I want to go to DC and do that, I can do that. Cause I had a little different experience. My dad went in 2024, I think, right?
Yeah. I think you went in 2024. Yeah. Cause I went in 23.
No, this has been 4 years. 22.
Whatever it was, but he didn't
went after me.
He didn't ask me to go. He didn't ask me to go as his guardian. And I like to give him a hard time about it, but I'm okay with it because I talked about this earlier today. It's like, I'm not crapping on your guys' experience with your daughters, but I would rather someone that, I'm glad he went and did that because I want him to have that as himself. Not to have me with him, because there's expectations that come from that that I don't want him to have anything to do with that. So, and most importantly though, is like, if someone that is volunteering to be a guardian, they go through that whole process that they've never, because a lot of what you don't realize is I have friends that are pretty connected to it here in the honor flight, here in the Columbus area. Like, a lot of them are not like tied to veterans. So these are people that are like dying to go, or it's a
there's a waiting list.
It's a very like dotted line connection to someone, like my uncle was this, whatever. So I think that's super important for, that veteran to go on the honor flight, and then that guardian to be someone that's really like a big deal. Like, this is like a true honor for them to go and take that person.
Here's the thing about that. You don't get to choose a guardian. I didn't.
No, I know. Yeah, I know, I know that, but I'm saying anytime the guy is, anybody that's for me is like paying to go, because the guardian has to pay to go. Anyone that's going, and like the people I've talked to that go, like a lot of the people I know, they don't really have any affiliation to the military. It's not like their dad was in the military or a parent or whatever. They just want to go back and welcome these, take these veterans on this thing. And so I feel like it's a bonding experience for both of those people. And I'm not saying that I'm not like, that's not something I want to do, but I'm like, I like to give my dad a lot of shit about that, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't go, because if he probably would ask me, I probably would have said no anyways, because I want that connection to go for him to be something, because I want it to be him. I mean, I think it's something that, that's something that he had, that's his experience. Like for me, I don't need to be part of that.
I have no regrets at all with my daughter.
Oh no, I'm not saying, I'm not, it's my own.
And again, not of my choosing, which it could have been my son, it could have been my daughter, it doesn't matter. But there's a waiting list, as you referred to, for guardians, people that have nothing to do with veterans, that have maybe a veteran in the family, but then they've never been a veteran themselves, might be a first responder. But these people are on that list. And like the group that I'm involved with, Jennifer, Maureen, these Lou, they're great people. They're salt of the earth, and they put their heart and soul into this. And when I see this, and it's on a volunteer level, holy crap! God bless them. Yeah,
I mean, I know, like I said, all the people I know that are involved in the honor flight here in the Columbus area, they're just like, they're all the people I want to be involved with, and that's why I've surrounded myself around with people that are giving rather than taking a lot of the times. But yeah, I mean that's my point in it, is like, I'm also a veteran, so me going with my dad it just didn't seem like. I'm glad he didn't ask me so I can just give him a hard time, but like I would have probably said no to him, and because I would rather that person to take him, because that's something special for both of them. That I maybe someday I do that, maybe I don't. It's like one of those things.
It's an individual choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a different. Like I don't have a lot of that, like that I wasn't welcomed home. I feel like it's almost the exact opposite. I've talked about a lot of it's like it's still today's words of like, thank you for your service. It's like sometimes it's like it's a lot of it. It's like, okay, like I made a joke a long time is just making them uncomfortable when they say that. But I get it. I just think it's a great organization, and I just like seeing these people that aren't connected by it to come in. You know what I mean? Like to someone, like for someone to. It's not even the money part, for somebody to go through the process to volunteer, to take somebody they don't know on that experience. That's a powerful thing to me. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. That's more powerful.
It does. What the greatest experience for me was being with my brother and hugging each other in front of the wall, the Vietnam Wall, and standing outside of that, in front of that Browns of the 3 GIs, walking with the 50 cal and the bandolier over their shoulders. It was an incredible feeling, but even more so, it was amplified because I was with my brother.
Yeah, I mean, in that whole program, I've been to all those memorials with my dad.
That was the first time.
Yeah, so that's another powerful. But it's one of the things we, like I always think about is like, I think it's a powerful thing. If I'm a veteran sitting on a plane, whether it's going out of LaGuardia or Newark or John Glenn, wherever, like. If I'm on the, if I'm sitting there, I'm looking to the person next to me, right, who's my guardian, there's a part of me that's got to ask, like, why is this person, like, why are they doing this? And that's the powerful thing. That's the powers in the question in that. Like, that's a powerful thing to be like, why is that person, coming back for me and taking me to do that? And I think that's a power. Then that's a connection. I think that honor flight has that I would never step in and be like, hey, I'm going to take my dad and do that. I get it with, and it's also both, your daughters weren't in the military either. So it's a different, they're like one, they're one layer back than what it is. You know what I mean? And I think that's just a powerful thing when you hear about these waiting lists, like when I like to hear them, give them a hard time about it, like how long it takes to get on a flight. That's what I think I love to see, like, because again, what is driving someone who doesn't know who my dad was to spend, $600, take time off of work,
to be with
fly with some dude, push in some cases, like
in a wheelchair.
Like, thank God he's not now, because you'd be pushing him in a wheelchair. He'd be complaining about falling on a hike. It would be a very difficult trip for you right now. If he took my dad.
It is.
Right now, they'd have him in a wheelchair.
Roger
and you'd be
Dodger.
like, why did I get stuck with Roger? Oh my God. No, but I mean, and it's awesome that you're involved in that. What made you decide to pursue further in the Vietnam Veterans of America organization? What was the thought behind that?
A buddy of mine, Johnny Oliveri, who was the scout leader that I told you about. He had a scout platoon. Johnny and I go back to elementary school, kindergarten, right through 6th grade. Spent a lot of time together as kids in the neighborhood. And then, you graduate high school, everybody goes off into the military, whatever it was expected of you. You come out, life gets in the way, both married, move out of the community, whatever, you lose touch of each other. And a few years ago in Matamoros, Pennsylvania, I was walking through a Walmart. And when you hear a voice, and geez, that voice sounds familiar, I know that voice. And I walk around the aisle, and I recognize him right away. He had white hair like me now, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, it looks like Johnny O. So we had another nickname for him. So I just yelled out his nickname. And he turns around and he goes, Mikey, because they used to call me Mikey the Twin. He goes, Mikey, holy shit, big hug. And we hadn't seen each other in 40 years. Mm-hmm. Well, lo and behold, he was part of the Nam Knights, which was a motorcycle club that would escort buses and stuff to the honor flights and stuff like that. And he was also the president of the Vietnam Veterans of America chapter tri-state 623, which was New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. So Johnny says to me, he says, why don't you come and join the group? I said, Johnny, you guys are the majority of your combat group, combat guys. I said, I'm not I'm a Vietnam era, that. So he looks at me, he says, get the fuck out of here. He says, after conversations with him, he goes, you fucking deserve to be there as much as anybody else, especially some of the shit that you did. He says, you get your ass to the next fucking meeting. And I hit it off very well again with him. 2 years later, they were having elections, and Johnny was up for president again, and they were looking for nominees. And a couple of the guys said, Mike, why don't you run for vice president, which I did, and I won. And now he's the president, and I'm the vice president, and it's a good group.
So I'm not familiar with it, but what's the group about though? What's their?
We'll do honor guard work.
Okay.
We do all memorials. We go to war memorials. We'll put wreaths out. It's as you know, Wreaths Across America. I'm sure you've heard of that. Yeah. We do fundraisers for that. We send wreaths during the holidays down to West Point, donated by the Vietnam Veterans of America. We'll go to gravesides for Christmas. We'll put all the wreaths out and flags. So that's pretty much what it's about. But it's all Vietnam vet based. If you're a Korean War veteran or still a World War II veteran, it's Korean. It's Vietnam specific.
So what's the membership like? I mean, because you guys are starting to get up in there. Like, what's the
thought now is within the chapter, and I think on a national level, some of the emails I read, they were trying to disband it. But it was a letter written by our group and several other groups that whether you disband it nationally, we're going to keep it regionally or locally until the last man standing. So our goal now is until there's one Vietnam vet left, that organization will continue to live. And that's our goal.
So there's talk like as you guys are getting older and
yes,
where the organization moves on or.
They're looking to, on a national level, probably shut it down. But we want to, take control of it locally, which I think as of now, from what I understand, we have that blessing. Okay, so chapter 623 is going to be till the last man standing.
Is there like an auxiliary to that where like the family members are part of it? Is it just solely the veterans?
No, the only time the families get involved is, for doing a function. That's it. But if we're doing the wreaths and the memorials and stuff like that, we actually are uniformed. We have beautiful jackets that we wear, and each guy like I represent the 25th, so I hold the 25th flag. We have another guy with the 9th Infantry Division. He holds the 9th. We have a first cav. He holds the first cav, and right down the line.
The first cav, I've never heard of them before. He's watching baseball.
We have 82nd. We have 82nd Airborne too.
Dad, have you ever heard of the first Cavalry Division?
Wow,
he's zoned out.
Yeah, he's zoned.
I wish I could turn the camera on right now.
So
did you hear that?
Nope.
See, he missed it the whole time.
Yeah.
What?
82nd Airborne.
Nope.
See, he missed it. See, he just proved what I just said about the phone. the power of the phone. It just sucked him in. I just was dissing on the first cav. Mike said the guys hold the first cav. I was like, never heard of those guys. Is that a real division? I never heard of them before. Yeah.
So we've received a lot of compliments from other agencies and stuff like that how well uniformed we are and stuff. But that's just what we're going to do until the last man standing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about like all the organizations out there, like the VFWs, the Legion, like the numbers are not like great.
Nope.
Yeah, because and you just wonder what's going on with that kind of, because I guess there was a time when that was needed connected, but like I still think that those organizations are doing amazing things. I mean, I was guilty up until about a year and a half or so ago. Like I wasn't a member of any of those, and now I'm a member now because it makes a difference. It's just the things that these guys and gals do, because a lot of them have the auxiliaries now. It's unbelievable. It's not just what I thought it was to be was just a bunch of drunks hanging out at the And so now you get into them, and they're donating to organizations like Save a Warrior. I mean, some of these guys are like the amount of money that they're raising through gambling or like all this crazy stuff. It's a shocking, but I think a lot of it is just getting back into that.
Yeah, we just recently sent 3 checks out to 3 different organizations. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch because you see I go to, when I have my Save a Warrior hat on, I go to a lot of the VFW stuff around here, and you can start to see that it's almost promising. You'll start to see some of the younger generation, like my generation is getting involved in it.
Okay.
And to see younger, it's even, the 40-year-old different because it's not, I'm glad to see that's handed over, but all these organizations are struggling to get in there. So if you're a veteran, there's, it's worth going in there. It's worth being a part of it because they're doing a lot of things and each one of them are doing different things too. There's some things that,
Yeah, we have where we do our meetings is at the VFW chapter where I think it's 169 out of Milford, Pennsylvania. And they're struggling too.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, who runs the organization, they're a real nice guy, scout guy, and he was 25th also, if I remember right. But they're struggling. We're keeping it alive, and we like Wednesdays. We do every Wednesday at 1:00. We do the PTSD groups, okay, and then the last Wednesday of every month we have our VVA, the Vietnam Veterans of America. In the PTSD groups, we have Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, World War II, which are pretty much none now, but specific Vietnam guys, it's interesting. They're all nice groups and worthy, but a lot of them are dying out.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about it a couple of times, and I've known you for many years. So like, you shared tonight and that you had a lot of you carried guilt and some unresolved emotions about your service during conflict. So what would you say to any veteran that's carrying that, the Vietnam veteran? I'm hoping they've gotten through that by this point, but many of them haven't, or, some of these guys and gals that, in the global war on terrorism era, what would you tell someone who's, possibly carrying those guilts?
It's a baggage you don't have to carry. We put the limitations on ourselves. We put the burden on ourselves. I would say now, I look at myself and I take a deep breath and I think about going back 2, 3, 4, 5 years about, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to be bothered. talk to someone, open up about it. It's not easy. And I mentioned my friend Johnny. Johnny kind of gave me the motivation to do that. But it's a baggage you can let go if you want to, because you have to take those steps. You're the person that's going to benefit from it. You're the person who's going to get healthy from it. And when you're healthy, everybody else around you is. They're going to want to be with you. So that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, I would. I'd only add is like just stop giving a fuck what other people think.
Good point. Good point. No, good point
about your service.
Yeah, no, good point. Good
because
point.
Only internally, what you're beating the shit out of yourself for no reason. Because I like, all honesty, in a real conversation, I don't. I can tell you with Joe, I've never ever said anything like that towards his service. Like he will always be a Marine, just like, he's one of my brothers, brothers in arms. And I think a lot of it is just all in your head. And you need to get out of our head with a lot of the things that are going on. So like, yeah. And talk about it is huge, to be able to if you're having those feelings, the first time you talk to somebody about it, you're going to be really shocked that they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I have it that, again, if you just look at pure numbers, right. Still not many people are volunteering. Like, it's getting better. The numbers are getting better in the military, but like, we're a small percentage of people that served our country. And that should be rewarded and recognized. And it doesn't matter what you did or what you didn't do. And I think a lot of it, just all that whole thing in your mind, and just forget about all the other shit or what, because a lot of the people that are talking shit to you didn't do anything either. Shit, yeah. So it's like, just stop worrying about what
I do have a profound respect for today's military, because it's an all volunteer military. Mm-hmm. So my hats are off to those active duty military, whether you're male or female, whatever your role is. God bless them for that. If the draft was still around, would things be different? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it. I always think about too. I thought about this is because, and it's gotten different because there's been some stuff that's been in the news about them like relaxing standards and some stuff. But like, especially if you enlisted in my time or like when you became an officer, like you had to meet a lot of like requirements. Today, like physically, like there's a lot of requirements. So like, it wasn't just anybody that wanted to go in went in. There's this perception that like you had to be like, not like I am now with all these broken things and problems I have. Like, you had to be in like, it was like not everybody got in. I mean, even if you got drafted too, like you had to pass physicals and stuff like that. So it's like, absolutely. Be proud of your service. And I think a lot of people, I've been guilty in the past of even with you, like busting your balls about it. And then like, just, other people where you judge them. And that's only because I was really judging myself about some other things as well. But I think nowadays it's like, if you're suffering from that, I think it's just, talk to somebody about it. Nobody sees you in that way.
I appreciate it.
And I mean, and any of those people out there, nobody sees it in that way. It's just, I think the other people that do, just like, a lot of people that like, I feel like that, when they have no business in anything, have an opinion of things. That used to be me as well too. Like, foreign affairs,
you haven't walked
economics,
in my shoes.
Wall Street. Yeah. But it's just, I think that's a big thing to remember, that the whole survivor guilt or like, just not, I didn't do this or that. It doesn't mean anything. You to me, everybody that raised their right hand and
I think
took that oath as my brother and sister forever,
I think the one that impacted me the most was my friend Danny Togneri when he volunteered. I want to say he upped his draft. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he was the week of his 19th birthday, he got killed. And did he have to do that? It's just the way it is.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's just
can't change that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on what time it was. Like, if you start getting into the later part of the draft that people don't talk about. If you were getting drafted in 1969, you weren't going into communications. You were going into
combat.
You're going to 11 Bravo or some other combat MOS. So so I think a lot of people said, "Hey, man, I'm just going to try to."
Well, I was originally 11 Bravo when I was with the 25th, and then it got into the garrison unit, base command. So that was different. But I don't know, it's the snowball rolling downhill. It just gathers and it comes to an end after a while, and it did.
Just a couple more questions here.
Sure.
What does service mean to you today?
Proud. I'm a proud veteran. Service, from my perspective, anyone who joins, God bless them. Service to me was a commitment. which I didn't understand. The 2 years that I had in the military gave me structure and discipline and concern for others. Up until that point, I didn't give a shit about anything. I was a troubled kid, but service today is, I'm a patriot. I love my country. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. As I asked that question, I was pausing because I was thinking to myself, it's always great, as I found out today, to be able to ask the questions rather than being asked the questions. I feel like today I'm more of service than I was when I was in the service.
Point well
I
taken.
think when I really look at it, I'm very blessed to. I know what service means now, right? I know what that really means and what it means to come back for other men and to be there for others. Like, at the time I wasn't. I was being of service, but a lot of it was focused on me.
Good point.
And what I could do. So like today, when I read that question, I'm like, man, I've totally, if I had the mindset I had now, I always say that how different it would be back then, but I definitely now have never been more of service to other human beings that I have before. And I often think about where I'm at today. I was lucky enough to receive an award today that's like I'm still having mixed feelings about, which is really cool. And I had some great things said about me. So I always try to keep those things in perspective because they'll go right to my head very quickly. But
I know you long enough.
But it's true. I mean, but when I think about that, I really am. I'm more proud of the things I'm doing today than I was of probably my military service. Never thought I'd be that, because that's what my life consisted of. That's what I graded myself on, and why when I got out of the military, I felt horrible about myself because I had that that long block of 20 years of not doing anything of real true service. Yeah.
Like that, it makes all the sense in the world. If I were to add that to my resume, I would put that on there. That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And I think it's not just, I just, when I think about that, I don't think I've asked a couple people that question, but I think today it's kind of hit me a little bit differently asking, because it's like, and service isn't like, it's just getting out there and doing stuff. Service could be just find out what it is, man. If it's like umpiring or like coaching a team, like just being like truly being like of service, like I know coaching the team that's a kind of weird one, because I'm coaching because my son is like, I think about things like that all the time. Like everybody's a coach because they have a son on their team or daughter on the team. Like when I was growing up in sports, the coaches, none of them had any affiliation to any kid on the team. And like, what the hell were these guys doing?
Yeah.
On 4 days a week teaching some fucking kids who we love the sport, but also like teaching us discipline, like teaching us life skills too. Like most of it was, it was just like, and also it was a way to get the hell away from our parents. They were like extensions of our, they were just a different people. So like, there's just, being of service is just, it's, I know what my definition of it is, and my definition of it is not everybody else's definition. I understand that, but I just think it's, the world would be a better place if we were truly in service of other people rather than ourselves a lot. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So to answer that question for myself. So one more question. I've asked this from everybody, but so, with the suicide epidemic that's, plaguing the warrior class, especially the military side of it, the veterans, what do you think is not being done that needs to be done to combat veteran and warrior class suicide?
In the discussions that I have with the guys that I associate myself with now, the veterans, when I say guys, I'm learning more and more every week, because this is relatively new to me in respects to how they treat it. I hear a lot of complaints about the VA. I also hear some positive things. Some of the shit the guys have been through, whether it's Vietnam or Afghanistan, and I know your dad's been through some shit, and you have, and it's tough to relate to that. So what I try to do is, for me, is listen and understand and absorb and see where their mindset is, where they're going with it. As far as the VA is concerned, I see a lot of the guys get bounced around. Okay, I know they have what they call vet centers. Vet centers are good. Guys can go there and talk to a psychologist or a VSO. I'm still relatively new in these programs to draw any negative. The positive that I get out of it has helped me. So what I've learned from that is try to help the guy that if he's stressed you got to reach out to somebody. You got to call. You got to take that step.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I mean, I wear this blue bracelet. It's the 24-hour hotline to support your veteran, the crisis line, and you have it up here. Just, hey guys, here's this bracelet. So,
yeah, I think that's, you know, it's, I asked everybody the question. I think everybody starts with that or gets back to that. It's definitely talking about it. And we talked about just, you know, the thing when you're dealing with shame, it's the same type of thing when, how you're dealing with and what you're dealing with in your life. Like, guess what? I hate to break it to you, but you're not unique. There's a lot of people having the same problems you're having. Like 2 doors down from here, the dude's having the same problems I'm having. You know, in New York, some guys having the same problem, some woman's having the same problem I'm having. It's just talking about it. And then, you know, being able, like you said, I think was important is, you know, to be able to be there to listen and understand what's going on, to really listen to what these people are telling you. You know what I mean? And a lot of it is, you know, to me is just, you know, yeah, like the phrase "me too." Like,
yeah. So
I struggle every day. People don't, you know, like it's, you know, I struggled for many years that people didn't know that, you know what I mean? And if I had the courage to do it, you know, I did, you know, 2.5 years ago, going to Save a Warrior, you know, my life would have been different at that time. I wasn't in the mindset, but like I could have done, you know, I can do that every day. Someone can do that. Just talk about what you're struggling with, what your problem is. And in big scheme of things, it's not as bad as we make it out to be.
As I'm finding out, and we have, I guess one of the experiences I had was Nico Robert Gill Jr. called me one day. He was on the phone, and I happened to walk into the archery range, and I raised, "Hey, Nico, how you doing, bud?" He says, "We had one of the guys killed himself. He was on the phone with the daughter. How do you handle that? What happened?" So I did learn, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Che, I did find out and figured out for myself that not all scars are on the outside.
No, I mean, they're definitely not. I mean, like that's a whole, I was trying to talk to you earlier about it, and we can talk off camera about it, but like, because we're getting close to that time, is like, yeah, and a lot of the scars we're carrying and the shame we're carrying and the reasons why we want to blow our fucking brains out or drive a car 80 miles an hour into a tree has nothing to do with what is going on for us now or what really happened to us in a service or as a first responder. There's some deeper stuff that goes into that. I totally believe it goes back to what you alluded to, is that those expectations that started from us as a young child, those things that happened to us that we just continue to carry on and carry on and carry on, and all, you know, that we just continue to let it consume us. And then, you know, we're living in the past, you know what I mean? I'm still living a life that, you know, and then I'm trying to meet, you know, up until 2 years ago, I just shared, my mom's been dead for 16 years.
Yep.
Right. Up until, you know, 14 and a half years into that, I was still living up to my mother's expectations, or I was blaming my mother for why things weren't going well in my life. Right. You know, becoming complete with my mother and the source of my relationships is changed what that is. And I think a lot of that, like you asked what happens when that happens. Unfortunately for me, when I hear about somebody taking their life, it sounds really callous. Is I just got to focus on myself. Right. And if I save one, if I save myself, I can hopefully save other person. I got to keep focusing on somebody else that wants to save themselves. It's a tragedy. It really sucks. It doesn't have to happen. But I mean, I can't dwell on that anymore, because that's what I was doing in the past. Is every time someone was doing that, I was, you know, worried about why they weren't doing that. Meanwhile, I was thinking the same fucking thing.
Sure. Right.
That's the crazy part about this, is like, how could you do this? Oh yeah, I was just thinking about doing that 2 days ago or an hour ago. You know what I mean? So it's you know, this is the tough space to be in when you get to things like that. You know, it can sound really callous of like, you know.
But you put yourself in that space, like you said.
Well, no, I mean, it's a reality of it. I mean, I can tell you, like, one of my slaw brothers in my cohort killed himself. Right. And I mean, I can come up with all these stories of why he didn't do it. Is like, Richard did not do the fucking work. He didn't do what everybody told him to do. He didn't pick up the phone. He didn't do the work. I'm not making him wrong, but that's how serious this business of dealing with veteran suicide and world-class suicide is like, this is a real deal thing. Like, you gotta reach out there. Like, I gotta be talking to people every day. I gotta be doing work on myself every day.
Yeah.
And I don't fault him for that.
Well, my buddy Johnny, who I talked about from elementary school and a childhood friend, he was a drunk for 10 years. He had the gun in his mouth. Okay. And here we are now. He's running the program. He's reaching out to everybody. He's a guy you want to be around.
Does he drink anymore?
Nope.
See, that's what I tell you. A lot of these things that dive into what it is. There's like, that's what I'm saying is that's doing the work. You know what I mean? A guy and gal who's, you know, in the 12 steps of what they're doing. And I'm not making anybody wrong. It's just a lot of it comes, like you said before, you got to be realistic and put in the work. No one's going to drag you out of the hole you're in, except for yourself.
Stop digging.
Yeah, I can't, like, I mean, everybody says, like, it's like, you know, I wear a bracelet to save one. And it's funny that people think what that means. It doesn't mean you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean my dad. It doesn't mean anybody else. It means me. Because I have to save myself. Awesome. And if I get myself right, then I can start, you know.
Well, that goes back to what I said before about you have to be healthy in order for everybody else around you to be healthy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if healthy is the right. I mean, I'm just giving a hard time. I mean, I just think a lot of it is like, it's just interesting when you know, I don't want to come off as being callous about it, but like, you know, when you thought about that conversation, it's a rough conversation. Like my heart bleeds for that. Like I think about Richard all the time.
Yeah.
I often think about like he'll never know that like he's the reason why I like if someday I don't want to do something, I know that's what the fucking reality is. That's the reality. If I don't do it, then that's going to happen to me. That's what a lot of us have to realize is this is a game of life. This is the most important game I've ever played.
It is. The guys within the group, like the PTSD group, there's two guys by the name of Ed. They're all Afghan guys and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's an honor for me to be around them and work with them and help them because I know they struggled, your generation and stuff, but they're genuinely good dudes and they're doing the work.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about it is it doesn't transition. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, I like the label of like, we can say like the Vietnam guys, the Afghani guys, it's all the funny thing nobody wants to say, we're tied by one thing. We're all tied. And my neighbor across the street who's never served in the military, we're all tied by the same thing. Okay. And we don't want to talk. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. What it is like everybody that's really struggling with suicide, it comes down to what happened to me in my first 19 years of my life.
Sure.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable for people to talk about it, but that's the reality of like why I'm living my life. That's how I live as a 53-year-old, like what happened to me or relationships or how I had expectations or somebody had expectations of me or all these things that happened to me as a child that we couldn't talk about. There was no talking about it. There still is no talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about, I had very great moments of my childhood, and I had childhood moments that were like at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to speak ill about my mother, but it was like extreme. I was the best person in the world. I was the biggest piece of shit.
In the world. Yeah.
Within that circle, not that circle, but those high pivots. I never knew what it was like to be. What is it like to be a normal kid? Mm-hmm. Right. And I carried that until I was 51 years, almost 51 years old. Yeah. And that's what that's just how, you know, that's the space I'm in. And that's what, you know, that's what's helped me save my life. And the men I work with is just understanding that if I'm having a problem today at 53 years old, I just have to keep looking at what am I struggling with and who am I struggling with, my mom or my dad?
Okay. I got to add to that particular statement. Mom and dad were great, but our greatest supporter throughout when we were in the military was our oldest sister.
Yeah.
She never differentiated from either one of us. We were Michael and we were Jack, and she was proud that we were her brothers and we were veterans. She always supported us.
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying like I always, it's interesting that I feel sometimes part of me feel bad that I say this with my dad sitting there, you know what I mean? But I had a lot of resentment for my dad. Like my dad was like, wasn't around a lot. He was working all the time. There's all this kind of shit. Like he, you know, we've had conversation and talked to him. It was like, I don't know if he knows how bad it was sometimes. It doesn't matter anymore.
No.
So there's all these things that are happening, like these, like, it's an interesting story, is like I try to tell people, and I know we're drawing towards the end of this, but like Easter just happened. You're here for Easter.
Yes.
So I've just now started to look at my father as he's just another man. He just happened to donate the sperm to me. And people are going to like this conversation, but it's a big difference to me in how I look at him, because now I can look at him as just as a man, right? Yeah. So like, and what I mean from that is, over time, is like, even in my 2.5 years from post, going to Saber Warrior, there's still times I would look at my dad, and I think he sensed it, as like nothing's happening, but I still look at him as like a 38-year-old guy, and whatever age I was, and I'm fucking pissed off at him.
Okay.
Like I still find myself, I'm complete with him. But there's still that part of it. Like this Sunday was an interesting thing being, and the reason I bring this up is a lot of people have feelings about what he was doing on Saturday, right? Going out hiking, like doing something he shouldn't do, which, have I ever done something I shouldn't done? Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
And gets, hurt or whatever, like, his pride gets hurt just like his body does, whatever. So what I mean is, like, when I look at Sunday, there's a lot of expectations on Easter. He's 20 minutes from here. You guys have came from New York. All of my sons are coming over with their girlfriends. There's to be a huge expectation that he has to come here. Like, if he doesn't come here, there's a problem. Something went off in my head on Sunday. It was like, when I knew he wasn't coming, yes, I can be upset. I can be upset that he's not here. Right. I can get it. And the reason I'm truly upset is he's not here, is I do want him to have a relationship with my sons. That's an important thing to me. So it's just to have him to do that. I see him pretty regularly. They're all there. It's just something, I want to be able to have a memory. It's as I'm sharing with my mom today, being that it's like an extension of that. But really quickly, like the past, I would be fucking pissed. I checked with him and said, "Are you sure you can't come over? Well, somebody will come get you." Jana was like more of like, "Well, go get him." You were like, "Well, go get him." And I'm like, dude, if he can't come over, he can't come over. Because the reality is, but the reality is, though, is if he was Joe, and Joe had went out on Saturday and fell down at Hocking Hills, right, and got hurt, I wouldn't expect him to come over here on Easter. I'd just give him a pass and be like, "Dude, you're hurt." That's the same thing I do give him now. Is like, I just look at him as another man, to be like that. Like he's going through something. Like, just because he's my dad, and he doesn't mean he has to fucking, be in pain, come over here to do that. But those are the expectations in family that we put on each other.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right. Yeah. It's the same thing that I've tried with my sons. I look at my sons now, a wholly different picture now. My sons are just, I donated the sperm to them.
Yeah.
And I help raise them. But I get past the expectations. Like you were just here. My youngest just came here to grab some stuff. There's a part of me that, like, there's expectations. Oh my gosh, both your grandfathers are here. Your grandfather's on a podcast. You should stay here. No, I'm not. He's a 21-year-old dude who's going to college. So he's got other stuff going on. Sure. Even if he's not studying, does he really want to be here? No. Like, the same thing. If somebody said they didn't want to come here right now, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And that's been my growth thing. I know I went on a weird tangent here. I don't know how that happened, but
it's all good.
But it's how it's the source of relationships. Like my dad, I would have a lot of problems with him not coming over at Easter.
Mm-hmm. I can attest to that.
Right. I mean, because you guys all were getting into it, like, well, go get him, like blah blah blah. And all I did was say, hey, I said, okay, cool. I'll take him over some food.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So he has some stuff. Get his Netflix, get whatever he needs going. And then after that, just forget about it. Right. And that's the thing about it is like, but if it was really the old me would have, like, I'd still be pissed at him if I'm being honest about it. And then I'd be pissed. And then Jana would bring something up. Can you believe your dad didn't come over? He was good enough. He was healthy enough to go for a walk, but he can't come over here. Like, that's the stuff we do in our families. And that's the stuff we continue to bring into our things. And then we just pass it on to our kids. Like, what do you mean you're not coming over for Sunday dinner?
I'm starting to understand.
What do you mean you're not staying here for until your grandfather gets off? It's like, dude, the last thing that my 21-year-old wants to do is sit down over here and listen to us babble for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Exactly.
So why not just let that go and take that expectation off of his plate?
In response to that, I'm starting to learn as I'm going along through all this process and I'm taking this ride is you got to let go of things you can't control.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming down to that, so, and you tried to get me onto this podcast for a long time, and I was just not feeling right about it. But over the years, and the guys that I've been working with now, and knowing you especially, it was a thrill.
Yeah. And if you remember, I've only asked you twice.
Yeah.
So I wasn't begging you to come on, but not to, but I mean that because I'm past those days of begging for people to come on, and it's not. When I say that stuff, I sound like kind of an asshole, but I'm not meaning it in a bad way. But
you do.
But it's just the reality of the thing. So, but I do want to thank you for finally saying yes. Thank you for coming in and coming on the podcast. It's been a privilege to share. I mean, hopefully,
I had some angst about it and stuff, but and over the podcast that I watched and stuff, and knowing you personally, it was a wonderful experience. I got to admit that.
Yeah, and you just worried when the dogs would come out. They normally do. This is a good time for the dogs.
And we have the rooting section.
Yeah, we have them there. So, but I would honestly like, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I apologize for any times that I've given you a hard time about your service. It was just me being an asshole and issues that I was having in my life. So I love you and thank you for your service. Thank you for what you continue to do for the veterans in the tri-state area and what you're doing for Honor Flight and all those other things. And I wish you the best and all that.
And I will keep you posted.
Definitely. So we'll get to the part of the evening that I enjoy the least. And tonight we're going to honor a veteran who unfortunately took their life. Tonight we honor U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Christian Isaiah Cypress, 26. Christian took his life on February 19th, 2026 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Christian was born June 16th, 1999 in Chester, Virginia. After graduating from high school, Christian enlisted in the United States Army as a communications specialist. At the time of his death, Christian was serving as a communications non-commissioned officer with Fox Company 97th Civil Affairs Battalion, airborne, and recently had been accepted to the prestigious Civil Affairs Qualification Course. In this crucial role, Christian managed critical communications efforts in support of civil military operations. Christian is remembered as a disciplined, focused, and highly committed professional. Many believe he had a remarkable, bright future ahead of him. Peers who knew Christian described him as one of the most knowledgeable and professional service members, with tributes noting he would have gone really far in his career. Christian will forever be known and loved by his family, fellow service members, and friends. Christian is survived by his parents, Sherelle and Douglas, wife Alexis, stepdaughter Analia, grandmothers Gloria and Martha, grandfather Jimmy, aunt Rosalind, Arnetta, Odessa, and Patricia, uncles Alfonso and James, and numerous other relatives and friends. And please, if you or someone you know is in crisis, please contact the Veterans Crisis Line at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255 or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. And I have a couple quotes to end it with. One of them I thought was, I had to pull in some Yankee stuff. So just because I love to hate them so much, especially nowadays. But this one is arguably, I think, we can agree to disagree, but one of the best catchers to ever play, Jorge Posada. It says, I think you learn from your mistakes, you learn from things you do, and try to stay away from the negatives in your life. I think I've grown. So I just thought that was an interesting one. And then one that kind of ties into my transformational thing, and then also that ties into the survivor guilt. And I thought this one might hit you hard. This is from Becca Vry. It says, there comes a time for us not to just be survivors, but to be warriors. Embrace it. Seize every opportunity from here on out. Live. So again, I'd like to thank you for coming on to episode 93. We will see everyone in a couple weeks. Before I go, anything else you wanted to add?
Yes. From one proud veteran, I thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So everyone, this has been episode 93 of Pours with Patriots. Until next time, be kind to yourself, honor the stories of our veterans, and remember, when you sit down with a Patriot, the conversation is different. Have a great night. Thanks.
Good night.